Chapter 580. Jing Yu thought that Jing Yan had turned over a new leaf, but she didn't expect her to have a deeper plot. She finally couldn't hold it in any longer after holding it in for an entire year. Jing Yu's eyes revealed a mocking smile. She slowly stood up from her seat and said indifferently, "Jing Yan, do you know the crime of slandering the imperial family? Don't forget that I'm not only the eldest daughter of the Prime Minister's residence, but I'm also the 9th imperial concubine." "Jing Yu, how long are you going to pretend for?" Jing Yan's eyes were full of mockery. She said coldly, "Are you feeling guilty? If you have the ability, then test if you really have abnormal pupils. If you don't, then what are you going to do?" Jing Yu abruptly took over after Jing Yan's provocative words. Her voice was full of energy, which shocked everyone. Looking at Jing Yu's confident appearance, she didn't seem like someone who had a guilty conscience. "If you don't..." Jing Yan's face turned red from holding back her anger. "If I don't, then I want you to become a nun. You'll never step into the secular world again." Jing Yu didn't wait for Jing Yan to finish. Her cold words caused Jing Yan's face to suddenly turn pale. Becoming a nun meant that she would never be able to step into the mortal world again. How cruel was this to a woman? "What? Are you scared? Then I'll change it." Jing Yu coldly curled her lips and said slowly, "You slandered the imperial family and spoke rudely. According to the Tokyo commandments, you should be whipped 50 times and sent to the military camp to serve as a prostitute." "Do?" Jing Yan's face turned even paler. Jing Yu had made her speechless. "How is it? Have you made your choice?" Jing Yu crossed her arms and smiled. She looked at Jing Yan with interest. "Are you so sure that I'll lose? You have abnormal pupils. You're a monster." Jing Yan shouted crazily, "If I lose, I'm willing to become a nun." "All right." Jing Yu suddenly shouted. There was a faint smile in her eyes as she said, "In front of the emperor and the elders of the sacred clan, I'm afraid you will never be able to take back your words. In that case, what are you waiting for? I'll have to trouble the 2 elders to give me the mirror." "Take it." Yenshin looked at Jing Yu carefully from head to toe and said to the people beside him. The disciple acknowledged and went over. Jing Yu's lips curled into a disdainful smile. With an indifferent expression, she raised her hand and took the mirror. Her expression didn't change at all as she looked at herself in the mirror. The person in the mirror was exquisite and beautiful, with a pair of deep, dark eyes. "Xiaochen, take a look. Do you think my makeup looks good today?" Jing Yu looked at herself in the mirror and asked Xiaochen, who had just stood up. Xiaochen glanced at Jing Yu in the mirror and nodded. Yan Chen and Meng An's faces darkened when they heard her words. This woman actually thought that the treasure of the Holy Family was an ordinary mirror? "Zhu Guang, did you see it clearly?" Yan Chen frowned and shouted. "Sixth Elder, there's no change." The man was slightly stunned and then responded. "If there's no change, why are you still standing there? Take the mirror back." Yan Chen's face darkened as he shouted coldly. The man quickly took the mirror from Jing Yu's hand, but he didn't see that when the mirror shone on Jing Yu's neck, the mirror flashed. Jing Yu was wearing high-collared clothes today, so the beads on her neck were covered. The place where the light flashed just now was on Jing Yu's neck. However, the man called Zhu Guang didn't see it at all because he had been yelled at by Yan Chen. He hurriedly took the mirror from Jing Yu's hand and walked over with his head lowered. Chapter 581. "But I'm not done yet." Zhu Guang didn't see it, but that didn't mean that Jing Yu and Xiaochen didn't see it. The blinding light shocked Jing Yu so much that her heart almost jumped out of her chest. Fortunately, no one saw it. Jing Yu raised her voice to hide her panic. "Do you really think that this mirror is a toy?" Yan Xin hid the mirror like it was a treasure. When he heard Jing Yu's words, his face turned even uglier as he spoke coldly. "No." Jing Yu smiled faintly and said, "So are my eyes different or not?" Yan Xin replied snappily. "Ha, if Elder Yan says so, then it's easy to handle." Jing Yu changed the topic and looked at Jing Yan. "Jing Yan, now that you've seen and heard it, are you convinced? It looks like you have to go to the nunnery. Don't worry, I'll ask Father to give you more money. It'll be enough for you to eat and wear for the rest of your life. What? How can this be? You clearly have different eyes. I saw it. I saw it with my own eyes. Jing Yan's face was pale and her eyes were filled with disbelief. Jing Yan, look at you. Are you pretending to be crazy? Do you think you can invalidate what you've just said? Your Majesty has also seen it. What do you think we should do? Jing Yu looked indifferently at Jing Yan. With just a few words, she had described Jing Yan's words as crazy. Clearly, she was telling everyone that her words couldn't be trusted. Enough. Xiao Ye's face turned ugly when he heard this. He coldly said, "How can the young miss of the Prime Minister's residence act so crazily? Men, take her away." "Take care, I won't send you off." Jing Yu was in a good mood as she waved at Jing Yan. She turned to look at everyone and said, "Also, I have to say that I can't control wild beasts. I only caught a small snake. Those 2 gray wolves have been with me since I was young. I believe everyone here knows that I grew up in the forest. If I hadn't picked up 2 gray wolves and brought them with me, I might have been eaten by other beasts." Jing Yu looked at Yan Chen and Meng An indifferently and said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not the person you're looking for." "Did you grow up in the forest?" Meng An's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at Jing Yu with some confusion. "Elder Meng, this is something that everyone in the Tokyo Imperial City knows. However, I was separated from my parents when I was young. Fortunately, I have found my home. It is precisely because I drank wolf milk that I have a special affinity with wolves. I believe the 2 elders can understand, right?" Jing Yu was incomparably calm and spoke without any embellishment. "I see." Meng An finally understood. He looked at Jing Yu with some pity. It was hard to imagine how a child could grow up in such a vicious forest. "Since you're not the 9th imperial concubine, then let's continue." Yan Chen didn't think much about it and continued to let people test. A good banquet had turned into a foul atmosphere. In the end, no one in the hall was the same. If it wasn't for the fact that the Empress Dowager was too old, Yan Chen probably would have let the Empress Dowager test it too. The banquet finally ended after all the tests were completed. Yan Chen and Meng An didn't gain anything. However, Jing Yan was really taken away because of this matter. The next day, she was escorted out of the imperial city without any preparation and headed to a distant nunnery. It was said that when Mei Jinghe heard the news, she cried until she fainted. She only had 1 daughter. She had hoped that she could marry the 2nd prince and become a phoenix. She didn't expect such a huge change, and she was actually taken away to become a nun. Chapter 582. After the banquet, Jing Yu left the palace in the sedan. It was said that the people from the Holy Family would stay in the palace for a few more days. The emperor arranged for the people from the Holy Family to be received in the embassy. On the way out of the palace, Jing Yu didn't say a word to Xiao Chen. In front of the palace gate, they unexpectedly bumped into the people from the Holy Family. They seemed to be discussing something. Jing Yu's heart tightened, but she didn't show it on her face. She smiled at Meng An and Yan Chen, then turned and got into the carriage. Xiao Chen glanced at Meng An and Yan Chen indifferently, then turned and got into the carriage. "That is the famous 9th Emperor's Xiao Chen, right?" Meng An frowned and said. Yan Chen narrowed his eyes as he watched Xiao Chen's carriage disappear into the distance. To be able to hear of his name while traveling through the 4 nations, this person is not simple. Don't you feel that the 9th imperial concubine is a little different? I don't know why, but I feel that things are not so simple. Meng An didn't know what he was thinking. Whenever he thought of Jing Yu, he couldn't help but feel that things weren't over yet. "What? 5th Elder, are you doubting the relic of the Holy Family?" Yan Chen's face turned cold. For so many years, he couldn't stand Meng An's attitude. It was as if he felt that he was right in front of everything. This feeling made Yan Chen very uncomfortable. "That's not it. I'm probably thinking too much." Meng An shook his head slightly and said, "Let's go." Yan Chen swung his sleeves and walked forward. Meng An shook his head helplessly and followed Yan Chen. Yan Chen was famous for his bad temper in the family. Meng An could only shake his head helplessly. He was still thinking about Jing Yu's actions at the banquet today. She seemed to have no flaws and her expression was very good, but why did he feel that something was wrong? Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's carriage traveled a long distance. Jing Yu's tense heart finally relaxed a little. She looked sideways at Xiao Chen, her eyes full of fear. If the bead hadn't protected her today, something big would have happened. It's okay. Xiao Chen raised his hand and pulled Jing Yu into his arms. He said, even if your different pupils are exposed, this king will definitely protect you. Xiao Chen hugged Jing Yu with a little more strength. The heat from Xiao Chen's body warmed Jing Yu's heart. Jing Yu's slightly panicked heart finally calmed down and became soft. She took a deep breath, buried her head in Xiao Chen's chest, and closed her eyes. After arriving at the palace, Xiao Chen immediately asked people to find out everything about the Holy Family. Jing Yu's nerves had been tense for so long, so she lay down to rest after arriving at the palace. Xiao Chen watched Jing Yu fall asleep, then went to the study alone to listen to Xing Yi's report. In the study, Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes slightly and said coldly, "Speak." It's all been found. Xing Yi took a deep breath and said, the Holy Family first went to Nanli, then to Cebu, and then to the Northern Pastoral. When they arrived at the Northern Pastoral, Master and the Imperial concubine were both there. There seemed to be traces of the different pupils in the Northern Pastoral. However, Hellion Theos secretly sent people to confuse the Holy Family. Someone secretly spread the news that the different pupils were in the Tokyo, so the Holy Family rushed over. In addition, I also found out that the Poison Sect and Mao Mountain people have also appeared. Shaolin and astrologers have also appeared. Chapter 583. Xiao Chen slowly fell silent. Master, the current situation is most likely very unfavorable for the Imperial Consort. Xing Yi's brows were deeply furrowed as he looked at Xiao Chen and asked, "This king knows." Xiao Chen stood up indifferently and said, "Don't take any action for now. Wait and see." Xing Yi bowed and acknowledged. Xiao Chen turned and returned to the room. Jing Yu was sleeping soundly on the bed. Xiao Chen's originally cold gaze slowly softened when he saw Jing Yu. He gently took off his outer clothes and climbed onto the bed, carefully holding Jing Yu in his arms. The tip of his nose was filled with a familiar scent. Xiao Chen gently kissed the top of Jing Yu's head. How could he let anyone hurt the woman he treasured? The night passed silently. The crown princess was already Lu Miaoqiu. This matter was at most a small topic for everyone. A concubine-born woman had such great ability to climb to the position of crown princess. Some people were very disdainful of this, saying that Lu Miaoqiu had used some unknown method. There were also some people who rejoiced in others' misfortune and sighed in relief. They finally didn't have to curry favor with this sickly crown prince. At the same time, some people mocked Lu Miaoqiu. Marrying such a person, who knew if she would become a widow at such a young age? There were many rumors about the crown prince. The matter of the crown prince and crown princess didn't cause much of a stir. After the banquet ended, the biggest thing was the Holy Family that came out of nowhere. Those distant legends were exposed one after another. In an instant, all kinds of rumors spread throughout the Tokyo Imperial City. All kinds of demons and ghosts were mentioned. The storytellers in the tea houses always started with, "Speaking of which, the Holy Family from 300 years ago, Jing Yu was in the Wang Fu." Nguan Yu told her about what had happened outside. She furrowed her brows. What was going on? Previously, there was some historical evidence. Now, it had completely fallen into the rhythm of making things up. Jing Yu was bored and ate her own food. Xiao Chen stepped into the courtyard and saw Jing Yu eating while spacing out. Xiao Chen's eyes were tinged with a faint smile. He slowly walked over. Nguan Yu's sharp eyes saw Xiao Chen's figure. She hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings to the 9th emperors." "Xiao Chen, you're here." Jing Yu turned her head and blinked. "N." Xiao Chen nodded and sat. He sat Saturday and looked at Jing Yu's mouth. He raised his hand and wiped Jing's mouth. He said, "Qinggu went to the Eastern Palace to treat the crown prince's crown prince. He will." "So fast?" Jing Yu was shocked. She sat up straight and asked with a frown, "It's so chaotic outside. Aren't you going to leave after a few more days?" Something happened in Miracle Physician Valley. Qinggu has been delayed for a long time. He can't delay any longer. Xiao Chun frowned slightly and said, I will secretly mobilize people to protect father-in-law. Nothing will happen. That's good too. The imperial city isn't safe now. It's better to let father go to Miracle Physician Valley as soon as possible. Perhaps it will be safer. Jing Yu nodded slightly. She stood up and said, I'm going to the restaurant and shop. I haven't been there for a long time. I wonder how the business is going. And let Xing Er follow you. Xiao Chun stood up and helped Jing Yu tidy her hair. Jing Yu smiled at Xiao Chun. She brought Yin Xiao and Xing Er out of the Wang Fu and headed to the restaurant and shop. Chapter 584. The imperial city was as lively as ever. After Jing Yu got off the sedan, she brought Xing Er and Yin Xiao along the main road. Only when they heard the shouts did they feel that the city was much livelier. Jing Yu first went to Ni Chong Court and walked around. Then she walked all the way down, passing through the dessert shop and heading towards the restaurant. Business is getting better and better. I'm relieved. Jing Yu stretched as she walked towards the restaurant. Her eyes were filled with joy. Imperial concubine is really amazing. Who in the imperial city doesn't know about these shops? Yin Xiao looked at Jing Yu excitedly and said, half of the imperial city's wealth has been snatched away by imperial concubine. You also have the support of the 9th empress. Which woman in the imperial city can compare to imperial concubine? Little girl, you're just too talkative. Jing Yu was very proud. She reprimanded Yin Xiao and brought Xing Er and Yin Xiao into the restaurant. Boss, why are you here today? Shen Yuqing was talking to the people in the shop. When he turned his head and saw Jing Yu, he quickly put down the things he was doing and walked towards Jing Yu. In the blink of an eye, Jing Yu was already 17 years old. She had been out of the forest for 3 years. Shen Yuqing was the first to follow Jing Yu. Now that his business was doing so well, Shen Yuqing was also very magnanimous. However, his attitude towards Jing Yu had never changed. He was still close and respectful towards her. When she was just a little girl, he had the same attitude. Now that Jing Yu's status was even more noble, Shen Yuqing didn't have the slightest bit of flattery towards her. This made Jing Yu feel very relieved. I'm here to see how the restaurant is doing, Jing Yu smiled and asked. Is there any news from Northern Pastoral? Boss, you came at the right time. Northern Pastoral just sent over the accounts and some trivial matters. Does boss want to take a look? Shen Yuqing nodded and said to Jing Yu. Since we've bumped into each other, let's take a look. Jing Yu nodded and went up to the private room on the 2nd floor. She looked at the letter sent from Northern Pastoral. It was nothing more than explaining what Jing Yu had done after she left. Lu Man's Rouge Potion was actually the most profitable. Next was Xiao Wenshi's Tofu Restaurant, followed by Tang Hongyang's Silk. Such a scene surprised Jing Yu. She didn't expect tofu to be so popular. In Northern Pastoral, tofu wasn't even called tofu. Before Jing Yu left, she left behind a plan for Xiao Wenshi and the others to work on. Xiao Wenshi revealed in the letter that he and his brothers wanted to open an escort agency, so he wanted Jing Yu to choose a capable person to take over the tofu restaurant. Jing Yu read the letter and understood Xiao Wenshi's intentions. She sat down and discussed with Shen Yuqing, asking him to choose 2 capable people to take over the business. The 2 of them talked about the restaurant and other businesses for a while before Shen Yuqing left. Jing Yu sat down and drank a big pot of water. It was a waste of saliva to talk so much. Jing Yu rested in the private room and didn't see the figures downstairs walk into the restaurant. They were Meng En, Yan Qin, and the other members of the Holy Family. They seemed to be looking for something and then walked into the restaurant to rest. Inside the restaurant, Meng En, Yan Qin, and the others found a seat and sat down. They looked around the restaurant and their eyes were full of surprise. This is the best restaurant in Tokyo, right? What a tacky name. Yan Qin frowned and criticized. Chapter 585. Such a dish is worth the price. Meng An's eyes were full of appreciation. He ate the strange dishes on the table, which were particularly delicious. The disciples of the Holy Family also nodded repeatedly. It was worth it. Yan Qin snorted disdainfully, but his hands didn't stop picking up food. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, Mengen leaned back and said with narrowed eyes, "This is the last direction that the high priest pointed out. It's impossible that there aren't any traces of people with different pupils in Dongqing's imperial city. There must be something missing." Fifth Elder, have you forgotten what happened to the last holy maiden? Yenchen narrowed his eyes and said, "The holy maiden left the holy family and was bewitched by a man in the secular world. He defiled the holy maiden and gave birth to a person with different pupils. How can we bear such a great shame?" Sixth Elder, have you forgotten the high priest's words? Meng An's face changed slightly and he shouted, "The high priest said that this trip is only to find people with different pupils. We can't attack people in the secular world." High priest, Fifth Elder, do you still have the king of the holy family in your eyes? Yen Chen's eyes were cold. Yenchen, don't mess around. If you mess up the fate of our family, even the holy king won't spare you. Mengen panicked and shouted coldly. The commotion here was so big that it attracted the attention of the surrounding people. Only then did Mengen feel that his emotions were too agitated. He took a deep breath and slowly sat down. "Although I am the sixth elder, I don't have to listen to your orders." Yen Chen's face alternated between red and white as he stood up, flicked his sleeves, and left. The two sacred race disciples were obviously Yen Chen's confidants. When they saw Yen Chen leave, they hesitated for a moment before hurriedly getting up and bowing to Meng and before quickly following Yen Chen. Mengen looked at Yen Chen's leaving figure and sighed deeply. He couldn't understand why the high priest sent Yen Chen out this time. Now he just hoped to find people with different pupils as soon as possible and bring them back to the Holy Family. He felt uneasy being outside for a long time. Jing Yu ate and drank to her heart's content in the restaurant before returning to the prince's mansion. She had no idea that Meng En and Yen Chen were right below her in the elegant room where she was sitting. Moreover, they might even harm her father. If Jing Yu had come downstairs earlier, she would have seen them. But everything was so coincidental. As soon as Mengen left, Jing Yu went downstairs, said goodbye to Xin Yuqing, and went back to the Wang mansion. In the Wang mansion, Xiao Chen and Qin Ge were talking in the main hall. When Jing Yu stepped in, it was already evening. She walked over when she saw them talking. Xiao Chen and Qin Ge heard the sound and looked sideways. When they saw that it was Jing Yu, they didn't have much expression. Ninth sister-in-law. Qin Ge stood up with a smile and bowed slightly to Jing Yu. "Qin Ge, when did you come back? How is the crown prince's illness?" Jing Yu smiled and looked at Qin Ge. "Ninth sister-in-law, you underestimate me too much. It's just a minor illness. Naturally, I can cure it." Qin Ge laughed and said, "Ninth brother, ninth sister-in-law, I will leave for Miracle Medical Valley in 2 days. I will go back and pack my luggage. I won't disturb you." "Okay, go ahead." Jing Yu nodded and watched Qin Ge leave. Then she turned to Xiao Chen and sat down beside Xiao Chen. She said, "The crown prince's illness is cured? What are you going to do next? Help the crown prince ascend the throne? Or pull out Xiao Jingran's wings first?" Chapter 586. You don't have to worry about these things. Xiao Chen replied indifferently. His eyes turned and he said, "How was your trip today?" "Very good. I discussed some things with Xin Yuqing. The northern pastoral business is also developing well." Jing Yu propped her head up and told Xiao Chen what they had done today. Xiao Chen listened quietly as usual. Occasionally, he would say a few words to show that he was listening. The night wind was cold. In the dead of night, in the Tokyo Imperial City Embassy, Yen Chen was resting when he suddenly heard the sound of soft footsteps coming from the roof. Yen Chen suddenly opened his eyes and lifted the blanket. He saw the person sitting on a chair not far away. The person who was hiding in the darkness was wearing a black robe. One was sitting and one was standing. Yen Chen couldn't see the person's face, and he couldn't feel any killing intent. "Elder Yen, did you sleep well?" The person who was sitting down slowly moved her body. An incomparably flirtatious voice sounded out. She obviously didn't want to hide her voice. If Jing Yu was here, she would definitely recognize this voice. If it wasn't Nailin Yu, who else could it be? "Or you? How dare you break into my room?" Yen Chen's face turned cold. His eyes flashed with danger as he stared at Nailin Yu who was sitting on the chair. Elder Yen, don't be nervous. I just came to bring you some news. Nailin Yu covered her mouth and laughed. She then said, this news is related to the previous saintess of your saint clan. I heard that the previous saintess had intercourse with a man from the secular world and even gave birth to a child? Yen Chen squinted his eyes. He wanted to see Nailin Yu's face clearly, but he couldn't. He coldly snorted and said, which clan are you from? Pa, that's not important. Nailin Yu faintly smiled and said, now I want to bring you some news. It's about the man who ran away with the previous holy maiden. As long as you find this man, then his daughter will be the next holy maiden. Isn't that right? Why should I believe you? Yen Chen replied with a sneer. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Nailin Yu smiled casually and raised his hand slightly. The shadow standing beside him moved and threw a scroll-like thing in his hand towards Yen Chen. Yen Chen raised his hand and caught it. With a heart full of suspicion, he slowly opened the scroll. On the white scroll, a woman as beautiful as a flower was reflected in Yen Chen's eyes. Yen Chen's eyes suddenly widened. The beautiful face of the woman in the scroll was so familiar. At that moment, he seemed to have returned to the days when he was in the Holy Family and lived a carefree life with his beloved in the Holy Family. Sister Yun, Yen Chen's eyes flashed with complicated emotions. In the end, he suddenly closed the scroll and stared at Nailin Yu. In a cold voice, he said, where is that man? It said that 2 days later, someone from the Godly Physician Valley will bring a man to the Godly Physician Valley. The road to take is in the west of the city. I stole this painting from this person's residence. Nailin Yu slowly stood up. The corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile and said, I believe that when you see this person, you will know who he is. That's right, Elder Yen, don't be rash. This person's identity is not ordinary. Nailin Yu chuckled and threw down these words. His figure jumped up onto the windowsill and quickly left. The black-clothed man followed closely behind him. In the dark night, he came and went as freely as a ghost. Chapter 587. His identity is not ordinary? Yen Chen's eyes were filled with brutality. If this damned man hadn't taken Qi Yun away, he would have had the chance to sit on the high priest's seat. As long as he married the holy maiden, she would be the purest woman in his heart. However, she had been defiled by a man from the secular world. How could he tolerate such humiliation? Yen Chen suddenly stood up. His eyes were filled with brutal, murderous intent. He silently walked out of the room. After a while, he found his 2 trusted subordinates. In the dim room, the 3 of them sat opposite each other. Yen Chen slowly placed the picture scroll on the table and unfolded it. The murderer who defiled and killed the holy maiden has been found. Yen Chen said coldly, in 2 days, this evil man will escape to the Miracle Medical Valley. This time, we must fulfill the decree of the king of the Holy Family. We must kill this evil man and use his blood to wash away the shame of our Holy Family. The 2 disciples' hearts were burning. Their eyes were filled with righteousness as they responded in a deep voice. Go and hire assassins to set up an ambush 10 miles west of the city. This time, we must not let this evil man escape. Yen Chen's eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty light. He said coldly, the 5th elder has worked hard to find the man with the strange pupils. There is no need to inform him of this matter. With this elder personally taking action, this evil man will not be able to escape. The 2 disciples were slightly surprised. They had long known that the 2 elders were not on good terms. Now that they heard this, their hearts paused for a moment. However, they still bowed to show their approval. The candles in the room were burning. No one knew that a shocking assassination was about to happen. No one would have thought that the 6th elder from the Holy Family was the man who had once admired the Holy Maiden. Many years had passed. No one knew whether it was because of unwillingness or resentment that had accumulated over time. Today, it was the best time to vent his anger. Master, it's all done. In a dark cellar, Nailin Yu unbuckled her belt and asked faintly, have the people of the poison sect come? This subordinate has already sent a message. The shadow kneeling on the ground bowed and responded. Very good. Let's wait for a good show. Nailin Yu casually took off her black clothes and put on a transparent inner garment. She raised her hand and took a wine cup. Looking at the green ripples in the wine cup, she said faintly, "Jing Yu, this time, I want to see how long you can hide your strange pupils." Ha ha ha. Cold laughter filled with killing intent echoed in the cellar. Nailin Yu raised her hand and drank the wine in her hand. She raised her head and exhaled a faint green chi. It was very strange. The days in the manor grew more and more leisurely. In the blink of an eye, it was time for Qinggu to leave. It was also time for Jingyu to go to Godly Physician Valley for treatment. Early in the morning, Jingyu got up and went to the Prime Minister's manor. Xiao Qin naturally went with her. She watched Jing Zhan get into the carriage and accompany him out of the city gates. Only then did she reluctantly stop in her tracks. At the city gate, Jingyu watched as Jing Zhan was helped into the carriage. She felt a little sour in her heart. Jing Zhan looked at Jingyu's worried look and raised his hand to touch her head. He said, "It's a good thing that father is going to Miracle Medical Valley to treat his illness. You don't have to worry about father." "Father!" Jingyu cried out in grievance. The moment she stared at Jing Zhan, her heart couldn't help but throb with pain. She seemed to feel a little flustered, but it disappeared too quickly. Jingyu couldn't tell what it was. Chapter 588. You are in the most danger right now. Jing Zhan held Jingyu's hand tightly and said solemnly, "Remember what father said to you." Jingyu nodded in response. "Ninth sister-in-law, it's time to go." Qinggu walked over and said, "If we delay for too long, we will have to sleep on the mountain before sunset." "I know. Don't rush me." Jingyu glared at Qinggu with hidden bitterness, but she had no choice but to let go. She watched with eyes full of worry as the curtain of the carriage was lowered. Qinggu laughed a few times and bid farewell to everyone. Only then did he get on the horse and bring the palanquin, as well as some herbs and books, out of the city. Jingyu stood in place and watched as Jing Zhan boarded the carriage that gradually disappeared into the distance. In that instant, she felt as if something had been dug out of her heart. It made Jingyu so uncomfortable. She laughed self-deprecatingly in her heart. This was what it meant to be human. He was her only father in her previous life and in this life. How could she give up on him after having him? Father. What a distant, yet warm word. It's time to go back. Xiao Qin slowly walked forward and put his arm around Jingyu's shoulder. Only then did Jingyu gather her thoughts and respond. She followed Xiao Qin and left. With Xiao Qin secretly protecting them, nothing would happen. Jingyu thought this, and her slightly uneasy heart slowly calmed down. In the prince's manor, Jingyu propped up her chin and was reading a book in her hand. Xiao Qin said that he had to go to the palace for business. Jingyu was very bored in the manor. Just as she was engrossed in reading, she heard Nwanyu report that Miss Shangguan from the general's manor had come to visit. Jingyu was delighted. What she wanted had come. She just felt that she had some free time and a companion came. Jingyu. Shangguan Linglan strode into the room. When he saw Jingyu sitting comfortably on the couch, he glared at her and grimaced. "Why are you so relaxed all day? Your little face is so meaty. What do you know? This is the beauty of fullness." Jingyu unceremoniously slapped away Shangguan Linglan's hand that was about to pinch her face. She asked, "Why did you come looking for me today?" "Don't mention it." Shangguan Linglan sighed deeply and said, "My father and a few of my brothers have all gone to the military camp and are busy with their own things. No one has been paying attention to me these few days. It's been very boring in the manor. I heard that your father is going to Miracle Physician Valley today. I wanted to send him off, but I was told that he had already left. That's why I came over." "Yes, my father left for Miracle Physician Valley early in the morning." Jingyu nodded. She looked at Shangguan Linglan and said, "It's rare for you to be so free. Why do I feel that you're so unhappy?" "I don't know." Shangguan Linglan was speechless. He frowned and leaned on the table, eating Jingyu's snacks. He said, "It's really boring. Miaoqiu has been in the palace all this time. It's very troublesome to even see her. Fortunately, I can still find you. I think you're thinking about something." Jing Yu covered her mouth and smiled. Tell me, have you taken a fancy to any young master recently? This imperial concubine doesn't mind being a matchmaker for you. Go away. What nonsense are you talking about? Shangguan Linglong glared and pushed away Jing Yu. Jing Yu didn't let him go and kept saying flirtatious words, making Shangguan Linglong cry out. It was very lively to have a companion in the manner. Chapter 589. Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglong fooled around for an entire afternoon. In the evening, Jing Yu changed into a new set of clothes, saying that she wanted to bring Shangguan Linglong to see if there were any bird nests on the trees in this Wangfu. Perhaps there would be some gains. When Shangguan Linglong heard this, she immediately became interested and pulled Jing Yu to climb the tree. Nuan Yu and Yin Xiao looked at these two young ladies with black lines on their heads. They were both young ladies of noble families. Why didn't they learn good things and went to learn how to climb trees? Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglong were having fun. Just as they were talking and laughing, they suddenly saw Xing Er flying over from afar with a gloomy expression. It was such a short distance, but Xing Er didn't walk or run. He actually flew over. What exactly happened to make Xing Yi so anxious? Imperial Consort. Xing Er suddenly stopped in front of Jing Yu with a turn. What is it? Jing Yu's heart trembled slightly. She blinked and asked in confusion. Something happened. Xing Er panted slightly and quickly said, something happened to old Master Jing 10 li west of the city. Master is already rushing over. Imperial Consort. Jing Yu's mind was in a mess. At that moment, it was as though something was rapidly leaving her. Xing Er's words suddenly stopped. Jing Yu took a deep breath. Her expression was so calm that no changes could be seen. She rushed forward and grabbed Xing Er, saying, quickly bring me there. Master said. Xing Er wanted to repeat Xiao Chen's words, but when he raised his eyes and saw Jing Yu's eyes, Xing Er actually couldn't say anything. His brows furrowed slightly, and after a moment of silence, he said, Imperial Consort, sorry to offend you. After speaking, Xing Er walked forward and grabbed Jing Yu's waist, quickly bringing Jing Yu to the gate of the Wangfu. Shangguan Linglong stood in place with shock. Seeing Jing Yu fly far away, he suddenly stomped his foot and said, this is bad. Something's going to happen. Shangguan Linglong hurriedly ran towards the gate of the Wangfu. At the gate, Xing Er put Jing Yu down. Jing Yu impatiently flipped onto the back of the horse, pulling on the reins, and quickly galloped towards the west of the city. Xing Er followed closely behind. When Shangguan Linglong came out, there was no one at the gate. He originally wanted to chase after them, but his eyes turned and he returned to the general's residence first. On the streets, Jing Yu's horse was very anxious. Her mind had never been so clear. The news that Jing Zhan was going to Miracle Medical Valley for treatment was not known to everyone, but it was not deliberately hidden. In the imperial city, who was it that wanted to make a move on Jing Zhan? Jia. Jing Yu's eyes were full of coldness. She forcefully cracked the whip in her hand, and the horse rushed through the busy streets. Jing Yu could no longer hear the clamor and curses. She only had one thought in her mind: nothing must happen to her father. After being reborn, she purposely made herself forget everything from her previous life. She only wanted to live a peaceful life in this life and do what she wanted to do. Her father was the most precious thing she had in this life. Jing Yu held the reins tightly in her hand. The imperial city was in a mess. At this moment, there was a commotion in the embassy. What did you say? Sixth elder went to kill the person who defiled the previous holy maiden? When did this happen? Meng An's eyes were full of panic. His face turned pale in an instant. He suddenly stood up and stared at a disciple of the Holy Family in front of him and shouted. Chapter 590. Yes, this disciple also just received the news. 2 days ago, the sixth elder actually hired countless assassins to go to the west of the city to kill that evil man, the holy race disciple said in a serious manner. Nonsense. This is too much. Meng An paced around anxiously. He suddenly raised his head and said, Quick! Prepare the horses to stop the sixth elder. We can't let him make a mistake. Yes. Several horses from the embassy chased after Jing Yu's footsteps as they flew through the busy city. Such a large commotion directly alerted the city guards in the imperial city. However, at this moment, news came from the general's residence. The city guards could not be allowed to make any movements. Jing Yu's horse rushed out of the city gates without any obstructions and sped towards the west of the city. On a mountain in the west of the city was the resting place of the two gray wolves, Yin Jian and Yin Feng. Jing Yu raised her hand and whistled when she passed by. A hurried and sharp whistle rang out in the forest. Jing Yu pulled on the reins with one hand and continued forward, putting the other to her lips and whistling. Interrogation Officer 1, who was following behind Jing Yu, heard everything clearly. For a moment, he actually felt a little dazed, as if he had returned to the Roman forest 3 years ago. The petite woman was fighting alongside the wolves, slaughtering their way through the battle. After staying in the imperial city for so long, Xing Er had forgotten about this imperial concubine and her terrifying methods. He really thought that the two gray wolves wouldn't bite and were just two pets. This 9th imperial concubine was really a woman who focused on business. He really felt that this matter was too distant. The woman who had shocked him countless times back then seemed to have changed at this moment. Awoo! Wolf howls sounded one after another. Jing Yu's expression became colder and colder. The horse seemed to feel a strong sense of uneasiness. The closer it got, the more it could smell the heavy atmosphere in the air. Jing Yu whipped the horse fiercely. The horse shot through the forest like an arrow. At the turn, there were corpses and blood stains. Jing Yu's heart suddenly tightened. Father, nothing must happen to you. Avenge the Holy Family and kill the evil man. When Jing Yu turned the corner, the first thing she heard was this shout. She suddenly reined in the horse. The moment she looked up, she saw blood everywhere. Jing Yu was lying on the ground, covered in dirt. Because his legs couldn't move, he was lying on the ground stiffly. The person who spoke was Yanqin. He was holding a snow-white broadsword in his hand and wearing a gray shirt. On the other side of the battlefield, Xiao Chen and Xing Yi were both held back by 2 disciples of the Holy Family and countless men in black. They wanted to come over, but they couldn't. Stop! Jing Yu's eyes suddenly widened. She shouted hysterically. Her eyes were bloodshot as she looked at the broadsword that was about to fall. Silver arrow! At that moment, Jing Yu had never felt so panicked before. A huge gray wolf flew out from the forest. At that moment, it was as if time had stopped. All the sounds in the surroundings ceased to exist. Jing Yu's eyes stared at the falling broadsword and the gray wolf that was pouncing towards Yanqin from the forest. No! The broadsword in Yanqin's hand mercilessly chopped towards Jing Zhan's neck. But at the moment when it was about to fall, he had to dodge and fly past Jing Zhan. Chapter 591. However, he was too slow and his back was scratched by the sharp claws of the silver arrow. Father! Jing Yu's entire body went limp. In the end, the broadsword didn't cut Jing Zhan's neck. Jing Yu darted to Jing Zhan's side. Her heart pounded violently as she knelt beside Jing Zhan. The man lying on the ground struggled to open his eyes and look at Jing Yu. Father! Father! Jing Yu's fingertips trembled. She did not dare to touch Jing Zhan. Jing Zhan turned to look at Jing Yu and a faint smile appeared in his eyes. He opened his mouth and said, Father, I'm afraid. I have to eat her mother? No, don't. Jing Yu stared in horror at Jing Zhan's neck, which was originally fine, as a thin line of blood slowly appeared. Under Jing Yu's horrified gaze, the line of blood became deeper and deeper. Dark red blood gushed out from Jing Zhan's neck. No! Father! Father! Jing Yu screamed at the top of her lungs. A group of people slowly approached from afar. The person who came was naturally Mengen. When he saw such a scene, his heart skipped a beat. He felt that something terrible was about to happen. Imperial concubine? Xing Er looked in shock at Jing Yu who was kneeling beside Jing Zhan. His heart trembled slightly. It's you. You are his daughter. You are the daughter of the Holy Maiden. Yanqin stared intently at Jing Yu. There was a fiery look in his eyes. Meng An's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. His gaze was somewhat uncertain as he looked at the woman kneeling silently on the ground. He actually felt a little uneasy in his heart. But, why? Jing Yu's body finally moved. Little by little, she was incomparably stiff. Countless storms were brewing in Jing Yu's pitch-black eyes. Something that had been dormant in her heart was slowly awakening. Her pitch-black eyes were filled with unwillingness. In the distance, Xiao Chen and Xing Yi broke away from the battle. Everyone's gaze was focused on Jing Yu. At this moment, the sky and earth changed. The night wind blew. But why did you kill my only father? Jing Yu raised her head and stared straight at Yan Chen as she asked. I don't ask for anything. I don't want anything. I just want a peaceful life. Is it so difficult? Jing Yu's eyes were trembling. Her tightly clenched fists seemed to be suppressing something. In the distance, Jing Lang, who was injured and unconscious, slowly woke up. The scene in front of him made him feel suffocated. Why did you do this to me? Why did you take my only family? But, so what if they were from the sacred race? I have never been your enemy. I have never wanted to be your enemy. Why did you refuse to let us go? You forced my mother to her death, and then you killed my father. But Jing Lang's eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Jing Yu, who had fallen into a state of tyranny. The cold bloodlust in her eyes was something he had never seen before. Tell me, why is that? Jing Yu shouted angrily. Under everyone's horrified gazes, Jing Yu's suppressed rage seemed to have finally found an outlet. In Jing Yu's heart, an incomparably dense hatred brewed. Jing Yu slowly stood up. Her petite body looked like it would fall in the night wind. Chapter 592. However, there seemed to be a powerful aura brewing in her body. With Jing Yu's words, the bead on Jing Yu's neck started to heat up and cracks appeared on it. Just because I'm the son of the Holy Maiden? Just because of that bullshit pupils? Just because of a pair of eyes? Jing Yu suddenly raised her head and laughed loudly. Ha! Whether I'm a good person or a bad person, it all depends on what your holy family says. Ha! That's ridiculous. Yan Chen's face changed and his eyes were filled with fear. Gotcha! A slight sound came from Jing Yu's neck. On the bed, the jade bead on Jing Yu's neck broke inch by inch and the string broke and slipped down. Meng In and Yan Chen saw this scene with their own eyes and finally understood why Jing Yu didn't show any abnormal pupils when she looked in the mirror. Holy bead! Yan Chen's eyes flashed with surprise and he said coldly, You really do have abnormal pupils. You actually have the holy bead to avoid the detection of the holy mirror. So what if I do? Jing Yu's eyes suddenly shot out a strong murderous intent. She stared coldly at Yan Chen and said, Aren't you looking for this pair of eyes? Now that you've found it, what do you want? Do you want to kill me? Kill my father and then kill me? Miss, please don't be agitated. I'm the fifth elder of the Holy Family. This time, I came out of the mountain to bring the Holy Maiden's orphan back to the Holy Family. I have no other intentions. Meng Yin quickly stepped out and said loudly, Ha! No other intentions. Jing Yu shouted loudly. Then tell me, why are there corpses lying here? Isn't the person who just killed my father a member of your holy family? Ha! What bullshit holy family? You can't even distinguish right from wrong. Useless clan. Ha! How dare you? How dare you insult my holy family? Yan Chen heard Jing Yu's words and his face suddenly became cold and he shouted loudly. Silver arrow, bite him to death. Jing Yu's eyes suddenly turned cold. She raised her hand and gave the order without mercy. The silver arrow suddenly jumped up like a gust of wind and flew towards Yan Chen. Yan Chen's face changed and he shouted angrily, Damn beast! Bwr! Yin Feng took a step forward, then immediately leaped up and pounced towards Yan Chen. Two huge gray wolves opened their bloody mouths and bit towards Yan Chen. Meng An's expression changed greatly. He hurriedly opened his mouth and said, Miss, please stop. Jing Yu acted as if she didn't hear anything. She let the silver arrow and the silver wind tear Yan Chen's robe. Meng An's face changed and he quickly rushed over. The members of the Holy Family raised their weapons and charged toward Yin Jian and Yin Feng. Jing Yu's eyes were cold as she raised her hand to summon the two wolves back. You killing people is called eliminating evil. If I kill people, I become an evil person. Ha, that's great. Jing Yu slowly squatted down and stroked the heads of the two gray wolves, Yin Jian and Yin Feng. She stood up and walked towards Jing Zhan's corpse. Looking at the corpse that was gradually cooling down, Jing Yu felt a suffocating pain in her heart. Miss, please come back to the Holy Family with us. Meng Yan looked at the situation in front of him and thought that he had to bring Jing Yu back no matter what. Otherwise, the world would be in chaos. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to ask me? Jing Yu suddenly turned her head. Her dark eyes were moving. Meng Yan and Yen Chen were stunned as they watched Jing Yu's dark eyes slowly change from black to two different colors. One was gold and the other was green, so dazzling. Chapter 593. Dual-colored pupils. Yen Chen and Meng Yan were completely frightened. Looking at Jing Yu's dual-colored eyes, their eyes were full of shock, and they couldn't calm down for a long time. Oh, you saw it? Jing Yu raised her hand and pressed it against the corners of her eyes. She blinked slowly, and her eyes were filled with cold light. She stared at Meng Yan and Yen Chen and said, "So what if I saw it? I was too stupid. Why did I have to cover my eyes so hard? So what if you don't have black eyes? So what if you have dual-colored pupils?" Jing Yu laughed presumptuously. At that moment, she seemed to despise and disdain everyone in the world. Her heart was beating rapidly. Why did she have to hide so sullenly? She should have been arrogant all her life. In her previous life, she wasn't herself. Everything she did was for the sake of the country. Agents were just tools to kill people. She hid all her temperament. In this life, she was carefree and always wanted to avoid everything. If she didn't shrink back again and again, how could it be like this? Kill when you need to. Do what you need to do. This was the feeling she liked the most. She didn't have to worry about anything. She should be arrogant. Do you want to kill me? Jing Yu looked at Meng Yan and Yen Chen indifferently and shouted coldly. This king wants to see who dares to do this in this Tokyo's territory. Before Yen Chen and Meng Yan could react, they heard a muffled shout from not far away. Xiao Chen's robe was stained with blood. He held a long sword tightly in his hand and walked silently toward Jing Yu. He stood naturally beside Jing Yu. My woman is Xiao Chen's woman. You have no right to bully her. Xiao Chen suddenly raised the sword in his hand and pointed it directly at Yen Chen and Meng Yan's lives. His eyes were cold, and his powerful aura was comparable to Jing Yu's dual-colored pupils. This king will take your life today. Xiao Chen's expression did not change from the beginning to the end. His cold words carried the power to control the life and death of the world. Yen Chen's body stiffened. He looked at the tip of Xiao Chen's sword pointing at him. At that moment, he felt extremely frightened. Yen Chen opened his mouth to speak, but found that he couldn't speak at this moment. Meng Yan looked at the sudden change in the scene in front of him and felt his temples throbbing. The high priest was right. This trip might bring the Holy Family tens of thousands of years of stability, but it might also bring them destruction. How could this be? A few days ago, his divination should not have been like this. Why would there be such a drastic change in a single day? The biggest variable was Yen Chen. Yen Chen was also a member of the Holy Family. Meng Yan could not divine Yen Chen, so he neglected such an important factor. Meng Yan's heart was full of regret. He looked up at the two people standing not far away. The man was dressed in black and exuded a strong, cold, and arrogant aura. His sharp aura could almost split the sky and the earth. The woman beside him had a pair of dazzling dual-colored eyes. She seemed to be arrogant and murderous. She did not put anyone in her eyes. Such a perfect match that could be called a death god walked together. Meng Yan Xen was fiercely shaken. It seemed that the world was just as the high priest had said. The stars would change in the blink of an eye, and surviving in the cracks of destruction might be the only way out for the saints. Now, he only hoped that the person with the dual-colored pupils had not lost his last existence for the people of the Holy Family. Chapter 594. Ha! There was the sound of a horse reining in. While everyone was silent, the sound of countless horse hooves suddenly sounded from the main road. The sound of uniform footsteps sounded from the horse hooves. Everyone turned their heads to look. In front of the thousands of soldiers and horses, a woman wearing iron armor and holding a spear was riding a horse towards Jingyu with an anxious expression on her face. Surround her! That familiar face and a body that was as firm as a javelin. She was clearly a woman, but at this moment, she was so tall and powerful. Shangguan Linglan waved the spear in her hand and ordered coldly. Behind her, countless guards with bows and arrows, large swords and shields surrounded everyone on the main road. In my Tokyo country, a member of the Holy Family actually dared to bribe an assassin to kill my Tokyo minister. According to my Tokyo laws, you should be beheaded. Shangguan Linglan pointed the spear in her hand at Yenqin. Under her voice, there was an endless amount of pressure. She actually silently carried the killing intent and the aura of a general on the battlefield. Meng Yan suddenly widened her eyes and stared at Shangguan Linglan. Her heart was beating slightly. She never thought that this woman would be a natural commander. Why didn't she notice it before? Yes, who would pay attention to such a weak woman? Wait! Meng Yan hurriedly said. Now that the Tokyo army had been mobilized for this matter, it would definitely not end well. Shangguan Linglan had just said that the person Yenqin killed was a high-ranking official of the Tokyo Imperial Court. He was also the father of the 9th Imperial Concubine and the father-in-law of the 9th Emperors. It was impossible to hide such an important matter. Young General, this matter is a misunderstanding, Meng Yan hurriedly said. Misunderstanding? This king saw it with his own eyes. What misunderstanding could there be? Xiaochen smiled coldly and walked towards Yenqin step by step. His eyes were filled with killing intent. You can't kill me. I am an elder of the Holy Family. If you kill me, the members of the Holy Family will never let you go. Yenqin said as he stepped back. Meng Yan's expression changed when he heard this. He cursed Yenqin in his heart. At this moment, Yenqin actually used the Holy Family as a shield. He was forcing the Tokyo and the Holy Family to go against each other. Shouldn't they make peace in such a situation? However, from the looks of it, there was no way for them to make peace. Meng Yan tilted his head slightly. If killing one person could ensure the safety of the Holy Family, then so be it. Meng Yan, you old bastard, save me. Just when Meng Yan was hesitating whether he should immediately rescue and retreat or not, he suddenly heard Yenqin's shout. His face immediately turned cold. He snorted coldly and turned his head without speaking. Holy Family? So what? If he dares to come, this king dares to destroy him. The strong arrogance in Xiao Chen's eyes made people's hearts palpitate. At this moment, Jingyu, who was standing silently on the side, moved. Xiao Chen, don't let him die. Jingyu's strange eyes flashed as she said, Today's enmity is a debt of the past. One day, I will personally go to the sacred race to get my revenge. Jingyu turned around indifferently and squatted down. She gently helped Jingzhan up and said faintly, Father, I will take you home. Hearing this, Xiaochen glanced sideways at Yenqin. In front of everyone, he spun the sword in his hand, causing blood to splatter everywhere. After the blood splattered, an earth-shattering wail rang out. Xiao Chen indifferently withdrew his sword and turned to leave. Behind Xiao Chen, all the meridians in Yenqin's limbs were cut. At this moment, he fell to the ground with blood all over his body and screamed in pain. Meng Yan saw this scene and frowned slightly. He looked at Xiao Chen's back with some fear in his heart. Chapter 595. Take this trash and leave. Xiao Chen's cold voice sounded. Meng Yan looked around and secretly stomped his foot. He lifted Yenqin up and covered his mouth before quickly flying away. Jing Lang stood up with his hand on his shoulder. His bleeding shoulder was clearly pierced through. On the other side, Qinggu was still unconscious and did not know anything about what had happened. Those who deserved to die were all dead. Those who left had also left. Jing Yu knelt on the ground and supported Jing Zhan's body. Her expression was a little stupefied. Xiao Chen squatted in front of Jingyu and raised his hand to touch Jingyu's face. Jingyu's eyes turned and looked at Xiao Chen. Bring father home. This time, Xiao Chen did not call him father-in-law. Instead, he called him father. Jingyu's nose twitched and her eyes turned misty. Okay. Jingyu nodded and watched as Xiao Chen waved for Xing Yi and Xing Er to carry Jing Zhan onto the carriage. Then he helped Qin Gu and Jing Lang onto the carriage. Shangguan Linglan directed the soldiers to clean up the battlefield. Then he turned and walked towards Jingyu. Jingyu? Shangguan Linglan looked at Jingyu with a complicated gaze. The words of comfort that came to his mouth could not come out. Linglan, thank you. Jingyu's eyes did not turn black. Instead, they carried a strange color. Jingyu raised her hand to touch the corners of her eyes and said, I've caused you trouble. Today, you should report to the emperor as it is. Jingyu, what nonsense are you saying? Shangguan Linglan was silent for a moment. Then he stepped forward and hugged Jingyu in his arms. He said in a deep voice, I don't care what others think of you. Whether you're a demon or a monster, in my eyes, you're my family. I won't let anyone bully you. Thief. Jingyu felt warmth in her heart, but she couldn't help but feel a little sour. She looked at Shangguan Linglan's military uniform and said, You didn't steal this uniform, did you? Shoo. Shangguan Linglan was slightly stunned when he heard this. Then he made a shushing gesture and said, Keep your voice down. I stole the commander's seal. Otherwise, how do you think I have the ability to mobilize my personal guards? Jingyu was speechless as she stared at Shangguan Linglan. Only this girl would do such a thing. Don't worry. I've done this kind of thing many times. At most, I'll get a beating when I go back. Shangguan Linglan shrugged nonchalantly and said, Get on the carriage. I'll escort you back to the prince's residence. Jingyu opened her mouth to thank him, but in the end, she didn't say anything. She bent her eyebrows and nodded as she watched Shangguan Linglan order the soldiers to do what he wanted them to do. Xiao Chen, what will happen to Linglan if she does this? Jingyu looked up at Xiao Chen and asked. Xiao Chen retracted his gaze and put his arm around Jingyu's waist. He helped Jingyu onto the carriage and said, With me around, nothing will happen. Don't worry. Jingyu nodded and obediently got on the carriage. In the carriage, Jingyu saw Jing Lang holding his head and staring at Jing Zhan's corpse. This scene made Jingyu tremble slightly. Big brother. Jingyu called out. Jing Lang raised his head. Although there wasn't any grief on his face, the pain in his eyes couldn't be hidden. Jingyu paused and leaned into Jing Lang's arms. She hugged him tightly without saying a word. Chapter 596. Jing Lang's body stiffened slightly. He paused and hugged Jingyu. Feeling Jingyu's trembling body, Jing Lang could not bear the pain in his heart. His eyes were slightly red. He hugged Jingyu tightly and did not speak. The atmosphere in the carriage was so silent that it was suffocating. Xiao Chen raised his head slightly and glanced at the two before leaving the carriage. He sat in the driver's seat and remained silent. Big brother, I want to cremate father's body and bring it to the Roman forest for burial. Let's move mother's grave to the forest as well. Jingyu wiped her eyes and raised her head to look at Jing Lang. Okay. Jingyu slowly nodded in agreement. Jingyu tilted her head to look at Jing Zhan's pale face and said faintly, The imperial city is not suitable for father and mother. The forest is vast and boundless. Let's bury father and mother at the place where I used to live. There will be many friends there to accompany father and mother. After I get my revenge, I will return to the forest to accompany father and mother. Okay, big brother will accompany you. Jing Lang raised his hand to pat Jingyu's head and said, This return to the city was grand. Shangguan Linglan took the lead and escorted the group back to the Wang Manor. The people on the streets all stepped back and looked at this scene with confusion. They didn't know what had happened today. After arriving at the prince's residence, the army immediately formed a circle. Interrogation Unit 1 and Interrogation Unit 2 went forward to carry Jing Lang out of the carriage. Qin Gu and Jing Lang were also lowered down and they quickly went to find a doctor to check on them. Only then did they know that Qingge had hit the back of his head and had fallen into a coma. Jing Lang's injury was serious and he might not be able to use his right hand for the rest of his life. This news was undoubtedly a blow to Jing Lang. He was a general and his right hand held a sword to protect his family. Now that he couldn't use his right hand, how could he do it? Big brother, when Qingge wakes up, he might be able to treat it. Jing Yu looked at Jing Lang and clenched his left hand slightly. She said, even without your right hand, you still have your left hand. How long did Big Brother take to practice the sword? If you can do it with your right hand, it doesn't mean you can't do it with your left hand. Jing Lang's heart trembled as he looked up at Jing Yu with a complicated gaze. Big Brother, you will not give up on you. Jing Yu took a deep breath and said, in this world, Yuer only has Big Brother. Big Brother definitely won't give up on Yuer, right? Yes. Jing Lang's heart felt as if it had been struck by a huge rock. He took a deep breath and looked at Jing Yu. Big Brother will not give up on Yuer. That's good. When Jing Yu heard Jing Lang's promise, the corners of her mouth curled into a happy smile. She was like a child who had received candy. Her smile was so happy and comfortable. The events of this day soon reached Xiao Chen's ears. An urgent edict had been sent to summon Xiao Chen and Jing Yu into the palace. When Xiao Chen heard it indifferently, he indifferently ordered people to chase the person who sent the edict out. Jing Yu was puzzled by his actions. Since I am a rebellious official, I naturally have to act like one. Xiao Chen sensed Jing Yu's confusion. He held Jing Yu's shoulder and said, from now on, I will accompany you in whatever you want to do. If you kill people, I will set fires. If you save people, I will heal them. Who dares to say no? Xiao Chen. Jing Yu's heart trembled. Looking at Xiao Chen's incomparably serious expression, the corners of her mouth curled into a faint smile. You are a rebellious official, and I am an evildoer. This world cannot tolerate us, so why should we tolerate the people of the world? Jing Yu slowly smiled. She leaned over Xiao Chen's heart and said, Xiao Chen, fortunately, I still have you. Chapter 597. Xiao Chen didn't say anything. He just hugged Jing Yu tightly. The general's mansion was in chaos. Shangguan Linglan had mobilized his personal guards. Xiao Yi couldn't summon Xiao Chen into the palace, so he immediately sent an edict to the general's mansion. Shangguan Hongwen had just returned from the army camp, but he didn't expect such a big change to happen in the general's mansion. Inside the general's mansion, Shangguan Linglan was still wearing his armor. He was kneeling on the ground and refused to say a word. He let his brothers worry about him. Shangguan Hongwen's roars were like wind in his ears. Lan, if you admit your mistake, father won't blame you. Shangguan Hongwen stared at Shangguan Linglan for a long time, then took a deep breath and said, Father, I didn't do anything wrong. Shangguan Linglan finally raised her head. She looked at Shangguan Hongwen with burning eyes and said, I didn't practice martial arts for myself. I did it to protect the people I want to protect. Today's matter is all my fault. If father wants to punish me, punish me. You. Shangguan Hongwen was furious. He looked coldly at Shangguan Linglan and said, Do you know that your one mistake has made the general's mansion an accomplice of a rebellious minister? Who is a rebellious minister? If father is talking about the 9th emperors, then I can only say that father has forgotten your original intention of becoming a general. Shangguan Linglan looked up at Shangguan Hongwen and said, As a general, I must be loyal to a wise ruler. Father, can you really tell yourself that you are loyal to a wise ruler? Shangguan Linglan's words were extremely sharp, causing Shangguan Hongwen's expression to change. Under the gaze of Shangguan Linglan's clear eyes, he actually felt a sense of guilt. Is the current emperor really a wise ruler that you wholeheartedly want to support? Shangguan Linglan opened her mouth again and said, Father, if the 9th emperor is a rebellious minister, then I am willing to serve him as king and establish a new country. When Shangguan Linglan's words fell, the hall was dead silent. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on Shangguan Linglan. The group of brothers lowered their heads. Shangguan Hongwen quietly looked at Shangguan Linglan, who was kneeling on the ground with a straight back. That arrogance, that pair of resolute eyes and sharp words. Shangguan Hongwen looked at Shangguan Linglong for a long time. Then he suddenly laughed and slapped the table. Good. You are worthy of being a member of the Shangguan family. Shangguan Hongwen's body was like a mountain. He slowly opened his mouth and said, "These brats are not talented generals. They can only walk the path of ordinary people. Lan, you are different. You have the heart of a strong person. In the future, your achievements will not be below father's." Father! Shangguan Linglong stared blankly at her father. At this moment, an indescribable feeling brewed in her heart. Father is old. Do what you want to do. Shangguan Hongwen stepped forward and helped Shangguan Linglong up. He looked at Shangguan Linglong's petite body and said, "Father doesn't want to put this burden on your shoulders. But now it seems that even if I don't do this, you won't let it go. Don't worry. Even if the sky falls, Father will still be here. Father only has one precious daughter. Even the rebellious ministers can't compare to the happiness of my daughter." Shangguan Hongwen placed his hand on Shangguan Linglong's shoulder. Shangguan Linglong's heart trembled. She looked at Shangguan Hongwen and her eyes turned red. Chapter 598. In all these years, these were probably the best words she had heard from her father. In Shangguan Linglong's eyes, her father was like a tall mountain that she could only look up at. Her father didn't speak much either. Every time, he would scold her during training. His rare encouragement would make her so excited that she wouldn't be able to sleep for several days. The number of times she could see her father in the general's estate was few and far between because he was always busy or with her mother. Today was the first time that Shangguan Linglong had talked back to her father without caring about anything. It was also the first time that she had been so firm in her beliefs. It was also the first time that she had heard such solemn words from Shangguan Hongwen. Very good. Shangguan Hongwen patted Shangguan Linglong's shoulder forcefully, then turned and left the hall with a loud laugh. Shangguan Linglong was still standing in the same spot with a dazed expression. She couldn't understand what was going on. She had clearly prepared herself to be beaten. How did she end up being praised by her father? "Little sister, you're really too cool." Her brothers immediately surrounded her and began to praise Shangguan Linglong. They didn't seem to realize that Shangguan Hongwen had said that they weren't talented generals. Instead, they felt that it was a great honor to see their little sister being praised. The prince's estate was completely silent. Chinga finally woke up not long after. His head was hurting badly. He had only woken up for a short while before he drank his medicine and fell asleep again. That day, Jingyu didn't care about the chaos outside. She only focused on stitching up his wounds and wiping his cheeks. Then she left to let Jing Lang change into new clothes for Jing Zhan. She picked an auspicious day to cremate Jing Zhan. It was night. The dim white candles were lit. There was no sound of crying, only the quiet and somewhat frightening sound of burning candles. Jingyu knelt on the mat and licked the paper money for Jing Lang. Her expression was somewhat wooden and didn't change. The pair of different colored eyes looked even deeper in the dark night. Jingyu stopped and knelt on the mat without saying a word. Footsteps sounded behind him. As soon as Xiaochen stepped into the shabby morning hall, he saw Jingyu's lonely figure. Xiaochen's heart skipped a beat. He took a step forward and squatted beside Jingyu. He raised his head and looked at the empty wooden tablet. "How can I erect a monument for my father when I have yet to take my revenge?" Jingyu knelt down and stared at the white candle sign with her enchanting eyes. She clenched her fists and looked at Xiaochen, saying, "Xiaochen, I have become the enemy of the Holy Family. There is no turning back." Jingyu. Xiaochen's heart suddenly tightened. He stared at Jingyu and said, "Do you want to leave me again?" Jingyu froze when she heard this. She looked at Xiaochen's anxious and nervous expression. His eyes were so moving. Jingyu's heart ached. She lowered her head and threw herself into Xiaochen's arms. She rubbed against Xiaochen's chest and didn't speak. "Jingyu, you are Xiaochen's woman. Even if I have to abandon the world, I will never abandon you." Xiaochen wrapped his arms around Jingyu's body and hugged her tightly. It was as if he was afraid that the person in his arms would leave him again. His heartbeat was so real. Xiao Chen carried Jingyu, who had fallen asleep in his arms, back into the house. He gently placed Jingyu on the bed. He looked at the woman who was still frowning in her sleep. Her cheeks were faintly pale. Xiao Chen raised his hand and gently rubbed Jingyu's cheek. Chapter 599. Knock knock. There was a light knock on the door. Xiao Chen paused, withdrew his hand, and stood up to open the door. Xingyi stood by the door and bowed slightly to Xiao Chen. Master, the emperor has received the news and is gathering the army to head to the prince's mansion. How many people are coming? Xiao Chen's face slowly darkened as he narrowed his eyes and asked. Those who should be coming are all here. Xingyi bowed his head and said solemnly. Xiao Chen slowly fell silent. Xingyi stood in place and didn't say anything. This king knows. You can leave. Do what you need to do. Xiao Chen said flatly and turned to enter the house. Interrogation Officer 1 was slightly taken aback when he heard that. He then bowed and acknowledged the order, carefully closing the door and retreating. When he turned and looked up, his eyes seemed to have made up his mind about something. This night was destined to not be peaceful. The officials of the palace gathered in the main hall to discuss something important. In an exquisite palace in the imperial harem, Ning Xiangyuan was leaning on a soft couch with her brows slightly furrowed. No one knew what she was thinking about. Your Highness, I heard about it. A young eunuch quickly ran in and said while panting, this servant sent someone to find out. What's the situation outside? Hurry up and tell me. Ning Xiangyuan suddenly sat up straight and asked. This servant just asked Xiao Lizi in the main palace. He said that the emperor has gathered the army inside and outside the imperial city and is heading to the prince's mansion. The young eunuch said, something big happened outside. The 9th imperial concubine's father, Jing Zhan, was surrounded and killed 5 kilometers to the west of the city. What? Jingyu's father? Ning Xiangyuan was slightly stunned. She stared at the young eunuch and asked, who dares to make a move in the Tokyo imperial city? The 2 elders of the Holy Family said that they hired countless assassins to kill Lord Jing in front of the 9th imperial concubine. The young eunuch trembled and said, the most frightening thing is that when Master Jing was killed, the 2 elders of the Holy Family found a person with different pupils. Your Majesty, do you know who this person is? Could it be? Ning Xiangyuan suddenly stood up. Her face instantly turned pale, and her eyes were filled with shock. She looked at the little eunuch in disbelief. It's the 9th imperial concubine. I heard that the 9th imperial concubine is a monster. He had a pair of different colored eyes, which was really scary. The 9th emperors were also present at the time, and the Holy Family was almost killed. It is said that the people from the general's residence went to control the situation. The little eunuch described it vividly, as if he had experienced it himself. Why would the people from the general's residence go outside the city? Ning Xiangyuan frowned and asked. I heard that the person leading the troops was the daughter of the general's residence. This servant doesn't know what happened. After the little eunuch finished speaking, Ning Xiangyuan's face turned cold. She slowly said, so it was Shangguan Linglan who went to save Jingyu? Your Majesty, everyone is saying that the general is colluding with the 9th emperors to rebel. The little eunuch said with a serious face, what does your Majesty plan to do? Hee. Ning Xiangyuan laughed coldly and said, Jingyu will also have such a day. It's retribution. Pa. Whatever you did to me yesterday, I will do to you twice as much today. Ning Xiangyuan's eyes were filled with ruthlessness as she said, since you are a monster, then let you have a taste of being cursed by thousands of people. Chapter 600. Go and spread this news. The more you spread it, the better. Ning Xiangyuan's lips curled into a cruel smile as she spoke to the young eunuch. Please speak, Your Highness. The young eunuch trembled and bowed as he replied. Inside the mansion, it was quiet and peaceful. In this dark night, groups of people quietly surrounded the mansion. The layers of soldiers were even stronger than before. No one made the slightest sound. Pairs of nervous and dignified eyes surrounded the mansion. The commoners living around the manor had been silently driven away. There was no one within a 10-mile radius of the manor. They were all soldiers. However, the doors of the manor were still tightly shut. No light could be seen, and no sound could be heard. It was so quiet that it felt abnormal. "General Pang, what do we do now?" Seeing that all the soldiers had taken their positions and surrounded the manor like an iron bucket, even a bird would not be able to fly out, let alone a person. "Wait a little longer." The one called General Pang was the one leading the troops this time, Pang Yuan. "Yes." The deputy general beside him bowed his head slightly and replied. He continued to look up at the manor in the distance. His sharp eyes swept across the manor as if he wanted to find some clues, but he could not find anything. The sky gradually turned gray and there were faint signs of daybreak. However, there was still no movement in the manor. At this moment, a figure quickly ran over and handed something in his hand to Pang Yuan. "News from that person in the palace." The person dressed as a manservant handed the thing in his hand to Pang Yuan. Pang Yuan frowned and raised his hand to take it. Pang Yuan silently unfolded the piece of paper and glanced at it. His eyes darkened slightly as he raised his head and said, "I understand. This humble one will take his leave." The manservant bowed and turned to run away again. Pang Yuan turned his head to look at the majestic manor and a sense of loss flashed through his heart. He took a deep breath and looked at the faint dawn sky. He frowned and shouted in a deep voice, "Attack! Capture the evildoer with abnormal pupils alive." With Pang Yuan's command, all the soldiers stepped forward in unison. At this moment, a sound suddenly rang out in the originally quiet manner. Under everyone's gaze, countless black-clothed men leaped onto the walls of the manor. All of them were dressed in the same way, holding swords in their hands. Their faces were masked and they were dressed in black. An indescribable murderous aura spread out with the appearance of these black-clothed men, and the surroundings fell into a momentary silence. "Those who offend Xiao Wangfu will be killed without mercy." One of the black-clothed men pointed his sword at Pang Yuan from afar. The murderous intent in his voice was so strong that Pang Yuan's face turned cold. He raised his hand and slowly pulled out the sword at his waist. He coldly shouted back, "Slaying evildoers for the good of the people. Kill!" Under the command, both sides were entangled together. The black-clothed men were ruthless and merciless, but the soldiers won in numbers. The scene was chaotic and shouts were everywhere. Inside the Xiao Wangfu, Jing Yu slightly frowned and opened her eyes. Her pair of different-colored eyes were clear and dazzling. Jing Yu slowly sat up and heard footsteps. Jing Yu looked up and saw Xiao Chen walking towards her. "Awake!" Xiao Chen, who was sitting beside Jing Yu, raised his head and touched Jing Yu's cheek. "They came in." Jing Yu slightly squinted her eyes and rubbed Xiao Chen's palm. "It's okay, they can't come in." Xiao Chen said without caring, "Did they disturb you?" Chapter 601. Jing Yu slowly shook her head. She lowered her head slightly and was silent for a moment. Then she opened her mouth and said, "Cremate the body for father. I want to take father back to the Roman forest." Xiao Chen nodded in agreement. Jing Yu stood up, tidied her clothes, and opened the door. The sounds of killing were so clear in her ears, but no one had the ability to charge in. Jing Yu slightly lowered her eyes and turned to the morning hall. Xing Yi and Xing Er silently went to move firewood and built a simple platform. No one mourned, and no one cried. Everything was so silent. Jing Yu watched as Xing Yi and Xing Er moved Jing Zhan's body onto the platform. Emotions appeared in her eyes. Jing Yu walked over and squatted by Jing Zhan's side. She looked at Jing Zhan's dark face. He hadn't even finished his makeup in such a hurry. Jing Yu raised her hand to caress Jing Zhan's face. The color in her eyes became even brighter. The green was so clear, and the gold was so warm. Xiao Chen stood below the platform with his hands clasped behind his back. He quietly looked at Jing Yu. "Your daughter is unfilial. I couldn't arrange a proper funeral for you. Your great hatred has not been avenged. I can't let father be buried with hatred." Jing Yu tightly clenched her fists. "If the Holy Family doesn't perish, how can we be worthy of father's 20 years of fear? How can we be worthy of mother's death? The Prime Minister's residence deserves to die, and the Holy Family deserves to die even more. Jing Yu bit her lips. Her eyes were filled with ruthlessness. She coldly said, "Father, your daughter will personally avenge your hatred for you." Jing Yu's face was pale as he stood at the end of the corridor in the distance. In this quiet scene, he could hear Jing Yu's voice so clearly. Jing Yu's left hand slowly clenched. Faint streaks of blood appeared in her eyes as she watched Jing Yu personally light the torch and light the fire on the haystack. The fire was so big that it engulfed Jing Zhan's body in the blink of an eye. Jing Yu stood in the distance and stared at the raging fire without blinking. The sky seemed to be brightening bit by bit in the midst of the fire. A figure jumped down from the eaves and knelt down on one knee in front of Xiao Chen. He said respectfully, "A large number of soldiers and horses are gathering towards the mansion. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid." Xiao Chen slowly fell silent. He frowned slightly and didn't say anything. "Pack up everything you need to pack. We're leaving." Before Xiao Chen could speak, Jing Yu spoke first. Xiao Chen was slightly taken aback when he heard this. He turned to look at Jing Yu. "Xiao Chen, are you willing to give up this mansion and leave with me?" Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen with a burning gaze. "I'll listen to madam." Xiao Chen's lips curved slightly. He turned to the black-clothed man and said something. The black-clothed man bowed and quickly left. Xing Yi and Xing Er looked at each other. They turned and began to order everyone to take inventory of their belongings and bring everything they needed. The sounds of killing continued outside, but Jing Yu didn't see a single injured person being carried into the mansion. The gates were still tightly shut, isolating them from the outside world. Qinggu also woke up at daybreak. The fire had died down. Jing Yu personally placed Jing Zhan's ashes into the urn. She raised her hand and took out a jade bottle the size of a finger. She placed Jing Zhan's ashes into the bottle. Xiao Chen and Jing Lang stood to one side and watched silently. "I have a great vengeance. I must let father see the destruction of the Holy Family. I will scatter these ashes on the grounds of the Holy Family for father to see." Jing Yu stood up and looked into the distance as she spoke slowly. Chapter 602. "Master, everything is ready." Xing Yi strode over and bowed slightly to Xiao Chen. "Okay, let's go." Xiao Chen nodded. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen went back to the room and changed into clean clothes. Jing Yu looked sideways and saw the clothes at the bottom of the box. It was made for her by her father. She remembered that it was a gift from Xiao Chen at her coming-of-age ceremony. Jing Yu had never worn it. Jing Yu walked over and raised her hand to pick up the clothes. The ink-red clothes were embroidered with golden stripes. It had a black collar, sleeves, and a black belt. Jing Yu liked bows and arrows, so the clothes were specially equipped with something that could hang a longbow and quiver. Jing Yu held the clothes tightly and turned to put them on. She casually tied her ink-black hair into a bun with an ink-red hairpin. There was no extra decoration. Jing Yu raised her hand and put the dagger beside her boot. She stood up and looked at herself in the mirror. Jing Yu was in a trance when she saw her eyes. She seemed to have returned to the modern world before she carried out the mission. But at that time, there was nothing but killing in her eyes. But now, it was different. There were too many things in her eyes. Ninth sister-in-law? When Jing Yu was deep in thought, she heard Qinggu calling her from outside. "Coming." Jing Yu turned and walked out of the screen. Qinggu was standing at the door and looking around. When he saw Jing Yu come out, he was stunned for 3 seconds before he cried out in surprise. "Ninth sister-in-law, your eyes?" Qinggu stepped back. He looked at Jing Yu, who was wearing an ink-red dress and looking at him with a pair of different colored eyes. The moment their eyes met, he felt his heart tighten. Qinggu looked at Jing Yu with some confusion and fear. "What? Are you scared?" Jing Yu asked with a smile as she looked at Qing Ji's reaction. "Ha, I'm not scared, I'm not scared." Qinggu coughed. Even if he was beaten to death, he would not say that he was frightened by that moment. He stared at Jing Yu with a smile and said, "Ninth brother went to the gate of the mansion. He asked me to bring ninth sister-in-law with me. Qinggu, go back to Miracle Medical Valley." Jing Yu glanced at Qinggu and said, "This has nothing to do with you. Leave on your own. With your status, they won't do anything to you." Ninth sister-in-law. Qinggu was stunned. Then, as if he had been provoked, he glared at Jing Yu and said, Who do you think I am? Am I such an ungrateful person? How can I leave when ninth brother and ninth sister-in-law are in such danger? Even Ijuan said that he wanted to kill all those people who said that ninth sister-in-law is a demon. How can I run away at this time? Ninth sister-in-law, you make my heart ache too much. Qing Ji's face was filled with grief as he clutched his chest. I give full marks for that acting. Jing Yu's face darkened. She looked at Qinggu, who looked like he was about to die, and helplessly held her forehead. Was there something wrong with this guy's brain? Let's go. Jing Yu turned and said. What? You're chasing me away? Ninth sister-in-law, you can't do this to me. Qinggu glared and blocked Jing Yu's way. He looked as if Jing Yu was going to do something illegal to Qinggu. Are you a pig? I told you to go and meet up with Xiao Chen. Jing Yu was about to eat Qinggu. Why are you still standing here? Are you still not leaving? Jing Yu gritted her teeth and glared at Qinggu as she shouted angrily. Chapter 603. Huh. Qing Ji's eyes widened when he heard this. He scratched his head awkwardly and said, Ninth sister-in-law, you said you were going to find ninth brother. I thought, what did you think? What did you think? Hurry up and leave. Jing Yu raised her foot and was about to kick Qinggu. Qinggu let out a strange cry and hurriedly dodged. He smiled and said, Ninth sister-in-law, you go first. I give up. Jing Yu raised her hand and patted her forehead. She walked towards the gate and looked around the courtyard. She raised 2 fingers to her mouth and blew a long whistle. The courtyard of the prince's mansion was silent for a moment. Then the sound of running could be heard. A woo! A soft wolf howl could be heard. Jing Yu stood outside the courtyard and saw 2 gray wolves scurry out of the courtyard. They circled around Jing Yu and rubbed their heads against Jing Yu's body. It's time to go. Let's go back to the forest. Jing Yu said softly as she rubbed the heads of the 2 gray wolves. Awoo! The 2 gray wolves wagged their tails as they heard this, as if they were agreeing, as if they were happy. Qinggu, who was behind him, widened his eyes in disbelief when he saw this scene. He had seen many beast tamers, but they could only make the beasts perform a certain fixed action, as if they were juggling. The only exception was Jing Yu, who seemed to be able to communicate with the beasts through their minds. She could make the beasts instantly see through their thoughts and understand what they were saying. This scene was too magical. Could this be the power of different pupils? The rumors were true. People with different pupils could really control beasts and become kings. However, Jing Yu didn't seem to have mastered this ability. She only had these 2 gray wolves by her side. If Jing Yu mastered this ability, what was there to fear in the world? No wonder. No wonder Master said that if people with different pupils did evil, the world would be in chaos. If they did good, the world would be peaceful. Then, was Jing Yu good or evil? Qinggu frowned and stood in the same spot, deep in thought. Jing Yu walked a distance away and saw Qinggu still standing in the same spot. She frowned slightly and called out, Qinggu, why are you in a daze? I was wondering if I had forgotten about the herbs. Qinggu walked quickly towards Jing Yu. Jing Yu heard this and rolled her eyes. This idiot, he couldn't forget his herbs even when he was running for his life. No wonder he was a medical fanatic. Jing Yu swaggered towards the gate of the king's mansion with the 2 gray wolves. The closer they got, the more they could hear the deafening battle cries and the thick smell of blood. The battle had just stopped for a while, and now it had started again. The situation was not optimistic. The sky was already bright, but the streets of the imperial city were much more deserted. Many people were hiding in the corridors and pointing at the Wang mansion. The corpses at the entrance of the Wang mansion were piled up like a mountain. This battle was probably the most terrifying battle that had happened in the Tokyo. Pang Yuan stared at the Wang mansion and couldn't calm down for a long time. They hadn't even attacked the Wang mansion yet, but there were already so many casualties. Looking at the men in black who were fighting non-stop, there were always replacements. For the first time, Pang Yuan felt that the Wang Mansion's power was terrifying. He never thought that the Wang Mansion, which had always been low-key and quiet, would have such an unfathomable power. Pang Yuan firmly believed that this fight definitely didn't harm the 9 emperors. How powerful was the 9 emperors' power, and how powerful was it? No one knew. No one knew. The people who entered and left the Wang Mansion were always the same few. Chapter 604. In the eyes of outsiders, the 9th emperor seemed like an idle person. Apart from the outstanding military achievements he made when he was young, it seemed like the 9th emperor had become more and more mysterious after so many years. The incident this time was a lesson and also a wake-up call. Pang Yuan finally understood the emperor's cautiousness. 30,000 men and horses, 20,000 infantrymen, and 10,000 archers were still unable to take down the Prince of Jing's residence. How terrifying was this number? General, have the reinforcements arrived? I'm afraid we won't be able to hold on for much longer. The deputy general was covered in blood. It was unknown whether it was his own or someone else's. He ran to Pang Yuan's side and said, "They're almost here. Hold on for a few more days." Pang Yuan took a deep breath and stood up. Yes. The deputy general gritted his teeth and went to command the battle again. Just as Pang Yuan raised his sword and was about to charge forward to kill the enemy, a sound suddenly came from the tightly shut doors of the prince's residence. Everyone's heart trembled and they all turned to look. The doors of the prince's residence trembled a little and slowly opened under everyone's gaze. The handsome man in black robes stood with his hands behind his back. He was extraordinarily handsome. His pitch-black eyes were incomparably cold. There was no warmth in his indifferent gaze as he glanced over. It was as if he was looking at a dead person. Xiao Chen looked around indifferently. The thick smell of blood was thick and pungent. Pang Yuan slightly tightened his grip on his sword. Was the 9th emperor finally going to make a move? Xing Yi, clean this up. Xiao Chen looked at the corpses blocking the road and raised his hand slightly. Yes. Xing Yi replied and was about to throw the corpses away. No need to trouble yourself. At this moment, a faint voice sounded from behind Xiao Chen. Under everyone's gaze, a petite figure stepped out from the prince's residence. When the footsteps landed, everyone's eyes suddenly widened. Their eyes were filled with fear. She was dressed in an ink-red robe, and her black hair swayed slightly as she stood there. The 2 gray wolves beside her were tall and mighty, and her pair of different-colored eyes were exposed in front of everyone without a trace of concealment. 1 gold and 1 green eyes were so dazzling and eye-catching. Go! Jing Yu lowered her eyes slightly and raised her hand indifferently. Under the extremely shocked gazes of everyone, the 2 gray wolves by Jing Yu's side howled as they swiftly dashed out. They opened their bloody mouths and bit towards the corpse on the ground before everyone's eyes. They bit the head of the corpse with a single bite, and then pulled it away in an extremely ferocious manner. Rip! The path was cut open, and the 2 gray wolves stood where they were. Their eyes were filled with ferocity as they looked at Pang Yuan and the others. When Pang Yuan saw the actions of the 2 gray wolves, he thought that they were going to eat the man. However, he didn't see the 2 gray wolves dragging the man away and not eating him. He let out a sigh of relief. Seeing a wild beast eat a man with his own eyes was really scary. Why aren't you eating? Jing Yu looked at the 2 gray wolves' actions and frowned slightly. Pang Yuan and Yin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. When they heard Jing Yu's question, their hearts suddenly jumped. So it really was Jing Yu who ordered the wolves to eat people. Awoo! Yin Jian and Yin Feng walked around and shook their heads in a very human-like manner. They actually looked quite disdainful. Jing Yu's eyes revealed a hint of a smile. She rubbed Yin Jian's head and said, "That's true. If we eat them, we'll probably have diarrhea." Chapter 605. SSS. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes widened as they stared at the woman who was surrounded by the 2 gray wolves. Their eyes were filled with fear. Demon. The eyes of the soldiers who were holding spears and swords were filled with fear. They couldn't even hold their swords firmly. Ninth Emperors, this subject has come under the orders of His Majesty to capture the demon. I request the Ninth Emperors to hand over the demon. Pang Yuan took a big step forward and cupped his hands slightly towards Xiao Chen as he spoke. Xiao Chen's expression suddenly turned cold. He stared at Pang Yuan with his pitch-black eyes and said, "This king wants your tongue." Demon? Jing Yu chuckled and looked around. Everyone was looking at Jing Yu with fear in their eyes. Jing Yu took a small step forward. The soldiers tightened their grip on their spears and swords. They looked at the approaching Jing Yu with a nervous expression. "Didn't you want to capture me? Then come and try." Jing Yu had a faint smile on her face. Her eyes were filled with mockery. As Jing Yu approached, the soldiers couldn't help but take half a step back. Such an action was extremely laughable. "Stop right there!" Pang Yuan suddenly shouted. Jing Yu did as she was told and stopped. She turned her eyes and looked straight at Pang Yuan. "Didn't you want to capture me?" There was something different in those golden and green eyes. Pang Yuan was instantly attracted to Jing Yu's eyes. At this moment, it was as if he was being stared at by some jackal, wolf, tiger, or leopard. It was an intense beast's ferocious aura that was attacking him. Pang Yuan froze on the spot. At that moment, he couldn't even find his own voice. The deputy general who was standing beside Pang Yuan was slightly surprised. He didn't know why Pang Yuan was like this. In such a situation, he couldn't be weak. The deputy general secretly gave Pang Yuan a push. Pang Yuan's body trembled as cold sweat broke out on his back. His face was slightly pale as he looked at the woman who was standing there quietly without doing anything. His eyes were filled with fear. The 9 emperors are harboring evildoers and bringing disaster to the world. Take him down. Pang Yuan took a deep breath and suddenly gave the order. Leave no one alive. Xiao Chen's eyes didn't change at all as he spoke indifferently. As soon as Xiao Chen's words fell, the black-robed men in the courtyard no longer hid themselves. People from all corners of the mansion emerged one after another. It was only at this moment that one would discover that all the servants in the prince's mansion were experts. Their ruthless moves did not stop at all as they aimed for the enemy's neck and meridians. Go! The 2 gray wolves beside Jing Yu were already eyeing them covetously. They lowered their bodies and growled. Their eyes were filled with ferocity. They were waiting for Jing Yu to give the order before they charged out without any obstruction. They started a massacre in the crowd. Their agile and strong bodies moved among the crowd. They opened their bloody mouths and tore off people's heads and arms in an instant. They bit off people's necks. The scene was chaotic. There were actually some cowardly soldiers who turned and ran. Bastard! Pang Yuan was enraged. He raised his saber and brazenly faced the silver arrow. Pang Yuan was born as a general. How powerful was he? He instantly restrained the silver arrow, giving the soldiers a chance to catch their breath. But how could Jing Yu allow that? Chapter 606. Just as Jing Yu was about to make her move, she saw Xing Er leap out. Jing Yu was slightly stunned and turned to look at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen, who was standing not far away, turned his head to look at her. His pitch-black eyes were still calm, but Jing Yu could easily see a trace of gentleness in them. Jing Yu's lips curled into a faint smile. This man was always like this. His Majesty has decreed. The 9th Emperors, Xiao Chen, is harboring evildoers and forming a clique in an attempt to rebel. He is to be executed on the spot. Right at this moment, a person riding a horse galloped over from afar and shouted loudly. That voice was so loud that it was almost shouting in the direction of Xiao Chen and Jing Yu. When the people on the street and in the pavilions heard this imperial decree, they were instantly thrown into chaos. Countless arguments and noises could be heard. Almost half of the people were doubtful. How could the 9th Emperors rebel? What was going on? Evildoer? Who was the evildoer? Countless doubts filled the minds of the people in the imperial city. A small portion of people were filled with righteous indignation. They said that the 9th Emperors had indeed rebelled and deserved to be executed. Lastly, there were a few people who were crying out in pain. They hoped that the ninth emperors would ascend the throne. All kinds of opinions could be heard. Just as the crowd was making a racket, the rumbling of horses could be heard. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the soldiers who were originally stationed outside the city had all entered the city. With such a large force, it was obvious that they were coming for the ninth emperors. For so many years, the ninth emperor's forces had been hidden in the shadows. Naturally, no one had truly seen them. Now that they saw so many soldiers and horses, the crowd couldn't help but worry for the ninth emperors. Could the ninth emperors really defeat such an army? With such a large force, Jingyu, Xiaochen, and the others naturally heard it. Pang Yuan's soldiers had already been suppressed to the point that they couldn't move. Now that they heard that reinforcements had arrived, their eyes instantly lit up with fervor. Jingyu and Xiaochen frowned. They really came quickly. Jingyu's lips curled into a mocking smile. Her gaze wavered slightly as she watched the grand scene of the majestic army surrounding the prince's residence. Ninth Emperors, this is a letter personally written by His Majesty. If the ninth Emperors is willing to hand over the evildoer, His Majesty will be lenient. The person sitting on the tall horse was the Tokyo's General Wei Jing, Xie Tianrui. He was originally stationed outside the city, but now he was leading his troops into the city. Xiao Chen stared at the person indifferently. There was no fluctuation in his eyes, and he didn't say a word. Xie Tianrui looked at Xiao Chen's appearance and his breathing became sluggish. He then said coldly, "Looks like the ninth emperors is determined to defy the emperor's decree. Take down these evildoers." Stop! At this moment, a shout rang out, and a group of people charged into the encirclement. The sound of horses galloping could be heard again, and a hearty laughter could be heard. Countless soldiers rushed in again, and forcibly opened up a path in the encirclement. "Xie Tianrui, you're so impressive." Among the crowd, a tall and mighty man wearing heavy armor slowly rode over on a tall and sturdy horse. His body was as tall and straight as a mountain. General Shangguan. As soon as Xie Tianrui saw the soldiers and saw their armor, he knew that they were Shangguan Hongwen's men. Only people from the great general's residence could have such excellent equipment. Listening to the voice, he knew that in this world, even the emperor would not call him by his name. There was only one person who could do so. Chapter 607. That's me. Shangguan Hongwen coldly retorted from atop his horse. "Since when did the imperial city become your territory, Xie Tianrui? Entering the city without permission is a great crime. Do you have the emperor's imperial edict?" "General Shangguan, I wouldn't dare to enter the imperial city without it." Xie Tianrui's expression was slightly ugly, but he still presented the imperial edict in his hand and said, "His Majesty's handwritten letter, General Shangguan, please take a look." "I'm afraid it's not appropriate for General Shangguan to gather so many troops." "Ah." Shangguan Hongwen's face changed slightly as he held the imperial edict. Just when Xie Tianrui thought Shangguan Hongwen would retreat, Shangguan Hongwen laughed 3 times and raised his hand to tear the imperial edict into pieces. "Bastard! How dare you fake an imperial edict? Bringing so many people into the imperial city, Xie Tianrui, are you trying to rebel?" Before Xie Tianrui could recover from the shock of Shangguan Hongwen tearing apart the imperial edict, Shangguan Hongwen heard Shangguan Hongwen's indiscriminate retort. Xie Tianrui's face turned green with anger. "Guards! Protect the ninth emperors and the ninth imperial concubine. Take down these rebellious ministers who are trying to attack the imperial city." Shangguan Hongwen drew his sword and started to fight without hesitation. "General Shangguan, that's a real imperial edict." Pang Yuan shouted anxiously from the side. "Impudent! This general has served the emperor for so many years, can't you tell the difference between real and fake? I think you're an accomplice of the traitors. Tie them up." Shangguan Hongwen went up and kicked him. He was so arrogant that he instantly surrounded everyone. Only then did he walk towards Xiao Chen and Jingyu. "The ninth emperors and the ninth imperial concubine can't escape suspicion. Come with this general." Shangguan Hongwen looked at Xiao Chen and Jing Yu and said without a change in his expression. Xie Tianrui and Pang Yuan were originally worried that Shangguan Hongwen was really here to save the 9th emperors. When he heard Shangguan Hongwen's words, he was relieved. He thought to himself, could it be that the emperor wanted to save the 9th imperial uncle's face, so he let Shangguan Hongwen put on such a show? In any case, the 9th emperor was the emperor's brother. The more they thought about it, the more they felt it was possible. They didn't notice Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's strange expressions at all and just swaggered away as Shangguan Hongwen took them away. Jing Yu tilted her head slightly and saw the person riding a horse behind Shangguan Hongwen. That petite figure and familiar face. Who else could it be but Shangguan Linglong? Xiao Chen and the others were taken away by Shangguan Hongwen's men. The prince's residence was immediately sealed and everything inside was moved away. Xie Tianrui and Pang Yuan saw Shangguan Hongwen's arrogant actions and became even more certain. This should be another secret order from the emperor. None of them expected that the emperor's most valued general, the general who guarded the imperial city, would disobey the emperor's orders and help a rebellious minister. Xiao Chen and Jing Yu were escorted out of the city by the great general's residence as soldiers without any obstructions. After the carriage left the city gates, it stopped and the curtain was lifted. A figure jumped onto the carriage and the carriage continued to move. Linglong? Jing Yu looked at Shangguan Linglong in astonishment. Jing Yu, didn't you say that you would take me to the forest to see if there was a chance? I'll go with you now. Shangguan Linglong was dressed in black and dressed as a man. Chapter 608. At this moment, sitting in the carriage, he didn't wait for Jing Yu to ask and said, "This is my own idea. Father will push all the blame to me. Now we are in the same boat." Linglong, why are you so? Jing Yu was both angry and touched. Shangguan Linglong was actually willing to go this far in the current situation. Jing Yu didn't know what to say. Don't be touched. Shangguan Linglong suddenly said, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for the 9th emperors. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen were both stunned. They blinked and looked at Shangguan Linglong. My general's residence has only been loyal to the virtuous king for generations. The current emperor is not worthy of my loyalty. If the 9th emperors were to take over the throne, my Shangguan family would definitely be loyal to him. Shangguan Linglong turned his head and looked at Xiao Chen with a burning gaze. After Shangguan Linglong finished speaking, Xiao Chen and Jing Yu both fell silent. After a moment of silence, Xiao Chen pursed his lips and said, I understand. Pa, I've always wanted to go out and experience the world. Shangguan Linglong suddenly burst into laughter and pounced on Jing Yu. He shamelessly hugged Jing Yu's arm and said, Jing Yu, you can't leave me behind. Speak properly. Why are you being so touchy? Xiao Chen's face darkened as he pulled Jing Yu into his embrace. He stared at Shangguan Linglong warily and said, Good for you, 9th royal uncle. My heartfelt words just now went in one ear and out the other. Shangguan Linglong was stunned. He then shouted angrily, I was the one who got together with Jing Yu first. Let go of me. Xiao Chen didn't say anything. He hugged Jing Yu even tighter. Wah, do you want me to live? I'm a woman. A woman. Even if she's your wife, I can't eat her. You won't even let me touch you. Shangguan Linglong was furious. He looked at Jing Yu pitifully and said, Yeah, look at your husband. Husband? Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He leaned over and glanced at Jing Yu. Immediately, a deep smile appeared in his eyes. Xiao Chen, let go. Go sit outside. I want to talk to Lanlan. Jing Yu blushed when Xiao Chen stared at her. She raised her hand and slapped away Xiao Chen's hand without hesitation. If you call me husband, I'll go out. Xiao Chen calmly raised his eyebrows and shamelessly bargained. This is so corny. I'll go out. Shangguan Linglong shook his body violently. His eyes were full of smiles as he turned around and climbed out of the carriage. He sat on the outside of the carriage. Xing Er was driving the carriage. When he saw Shangguan Linglong come out, he calmly glanced at her and continued driving. Hey, what was that look in your eyes just now? Shangguan Linglong was unhappy. He glared at Xing Er and asked. Xing Er was silent. Are you scolding me in your heart? Let me tell you, don't think that I won't hate you just because you're one of the 9 emperors. Shangguan Linglan spoke again. Xing Er focused on driving the carriage. Why aren't you saying anything? Could it be that you're a mute? Shangguan Linglan stared curiously at Xing Er's side profile. He silently muttered in his heart. How could a subordinate be so good-looking? Could it be that his looks were contagious? Xing Er continued to be silent. Looks like he really is a mute. What a pity. Shangguan Linglan sighed when she saw that Xing Er was silent for a long time. She patted Xing Er's shoulder and leaned against the carriage's wall. She swung her legs and didn't say anything. She didn't notice that Xing Er's face had already turned black. Chapter 609. If she wasn't Madam's sister, Xing Er would have thrown Shangguan Linglan out without any hesitation. Xing Er's face darkened. He swung his hand forcefully, causing the carriage to become unstable. Shangguan Linglan was so frightened that she quickly grabbed onto the wall of the carriage. She glared angrily at Xing Er and scolded, "What kind of subordinate are you? You can't even stabilize a carriage. I should have asked the 9th emperors to remove you." Along the way, the carriages headed towards the mountain road outside the city. After reaching the mountain, the 2 big fellows, Yin Jian and Yin Feng, were let out. It was really unfair for them to be locked up in the carriage. After leaving the imperial city, the journey was peaceful. However, the imperial city was in a mess. What did you say? The 9th imperial concubine is a monster? I saw it with my own eyes. Just this morning, she was taken away by the people from the great general's residence. Her eyes were really scary. Quickly tell us what she looked like. In the tea houses and restaurants, there were fervent discussions everywhere. Countless flirtatious women filled the air. When they walked to the streets, they heard about what happened inside and outside the imperial residence this morning. The corpses that were piled up all over the ground had to be transported many times before the entrance of the imperial residence was cleaned up. The 9th imperial concubine is actually a monster. So scary, isn't that so? That monster's eyes are different from ours. Her eyes are 2 different colors. One is gold and the other is green. It's really scary. Have you heard the rumors about this monster? It's said that the 9th imperial concubine can actually make snakes listen to her. The surrounding people sighed as they listened to that person continue speaking. Do you remember the last time the 9th imperial concubine competed with the princess of Nanli in horse taming before she married the 9th emperors? That time, when the 4 horses rushed to the 9th imperial concubine's side, they suddenly knelt down. Don't you think it's strange? Let me tell you, this is all caused by a monster. Ayaya, so scary. Could it be that the pigs and dogs that were often lost in the past were also summoned away by a monster? Who knows, maybe it is. These wild beasts are all subordinates of the monster. They will listen to the words of the monster. Didn't you see the 2 gray wolves that the 9th imperial concubine brought with her? Those 2 gray wolves are the monster's subordinates. That's right. This 9th imperial concubine must be a monster. Otherwise, no one would have this ability. That's right, she must be a monster. The imperial concubine was the 9th emperor's side. In the blink of an eye, the 9th emperor's imperial residence that was the 9th es no the truth concubine was the 9th was be that no tes It was said that 9th uncle had been bewitched by a monster. In the end, it was said that the monster had kidnapped 9th uncle and escaped. Countless shouts and murderous cries were raging. At this moment, the scene in the palace was completely different. What did you say? Shangguan Hongwen escorted the 9th emperors out of the city? Xiao Ye's face was ashen as he sat in his seat. His eyes were filled with shock. Yes, it was General Shangguan who escorted them. Xie Tianrui and Pang Yuan were kneeling on the ground. Their faces were flushed red. Only now did they realize that this was not Xiao Ye's order. It was Shangguan Hongwen who helped the rebellious minister escape. Bastard! Xiao Yi angrily swung his sleeves and swept everything on the table to the ground. Xie Tianrui and Pang Yuan were kneeling with their heads lowered, not daring to say a word. Where is Shengguan Hongwen? Bring him back to the palace. Xiao Ye's face was ashen as he shouted angrily. Chapter 610. Emperor, General Shengguan's old illness suddenly flared up and he can't get up. It is said that General Shengguan didn't know about this matter. It was all planned by the Shengguan family's young miss, Shengguan Linglan. Now, the young miss of the Shengguan family actually defected with 9th imperial uncle. Xie Tianrui's eyes were filled with bitterness as he looked at Xiao Yi. What a bedridden man. Xiao Yi suddenly got up and said, "Go chase after them. If Xiao Chen escapes from the Tokyo, it will be a disaster." Xie Tianrui and Pang Yuan quickly bowed. Dongqing was in a mess, and the other countries had also received the news. For a moment, a storm was brewing. Dongqing's 9th imperial uncle's residence was surrounded, and the general was severely punished for harboring a traitor. Thinking of his meritorious service to Dongqing, he was simply grounded in the general's residence without knowing the reason. This old man hasn't been this relaxed in a long time. Inside the general's residence, Shengguan Hongwen was wearing plain clothes as he walked around. He looked at the scenery of the general's residence and felt a sense of enlightenment. He was busy with military affairs and didn't have the time to look at the scenery. "Father, are we really okay?" Shengguan Minheo followed Shengguan Hongwen and frowned as he looked at his father. "I gave Lan a commander's seal. She can mobilize about 2,000 people outside Jade Pass. This is the only thing I can do for Lan." Shengguan Hongwen stood in the corridor with his hands clasped behind his back, looking at the flowers and plants that were slowly sprouting in the courtyard. "Right now, we can't do anything. From today onwards, all the soldiers and horses can't do anything. The emperor's orders can't reach us. As long as we can protect the general's mansion, we will be of great help to Lan. Don't be a burden to her." Shengguan Minhao was silent after Shengguan Hongwen finished speaking. "Father, why didn't you leave with my sister? Why did you take the general's residence with you?" Shengguan Minhao looked at Shengguan Hongwen and asked. This old man is already so old. I can't afford to lose face like that." Shengguan Hongwen said something confusing and then turned around and walked away. Shengguan Minhao stood there with a puzzled look. How did he lose face? Since it was shameful, wouldn't it be shameful to let his daughter do it? He really couldn't understand it. People from all over the world were heading towards Tokyo. So, the palace was also quite unstable. Xiao Chen took Jing Yu and the others to the Roman forest. Their journey was doomed to be unstable. Inside Tokyo Imperial City, several people appeared in front of Xiao Wangfu's gate. "Master, we didn't find anything." The black-clothed man's voice was cold without a trace of warmth. "Xiao Chen can actually do this." The red-clothed woman with a graceful figure slightly raised her chin. If it wasn't Nailan, who else could it be? Now that Xiao Chen's forces had all withdrawn from the imperial city and completely abandoned Xiao Wangfu, the poison sect and Nailan were no longer suppressed in the imperial city. This time, Nailan could openly stand on the street. Originally, she thought that Xiao Chen wouldn't abandon Xiao Wangfu, which he had painstakingly guarded. Did he leave something behind? But after searching for a while, she still couldn't find anything. Why? Nailan looked up at the Xiao Wangfu. In the past, she was almost half the master of this place. But now, she could only shrink back at the sight of it. When she was dying, Xiao Chen was so cold and ruthless. But now, he could do this for this woman. Chapter 611. Betraying the Tokyo and becoming a rebel. Betraying the entire world and using his actions to tell the world that he, Xiao Chen, would definitely protect Jingyu. But why can you treat that woman like this? Nailan Yu's eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. Her fists were tightly clenched, and her eyes were filled with anger and hatred. Jealousy filled her mind, and the only thought in her mind was to take Xiao Chen back. You clearly only had eyes for me before. Only me. Shadow, have the poison sex people all arrived? Nalan Yu's face was cold as she asked the man in black beside her. They've already arrived. The person leading them this time is second young master Yunjing. The news has already spread, but the second young master hasn't replied. We don't know if he went to chase after strange pupil or if he'll meet up with us in the Imperial City first. The man in black bowed slightly to Nalan Yu. Yunjing. Nalan Yu frowned slightly. No need to wait. Based on Yunjing's personality, he must have gone to chase after strange pupil. Then are we going to meet up with second young master now? Shadow paused as he looked at Nalan Yu. Of course we're going. Nalan Yu turned to look in the direction of the Imperial Palace. She calmly said, the Tokyo has stirred up a lot of attention this time. This young lady hasn't even made a move yet, but there are already people in the dark who can't wait to see Jing Yu's reputation fall. Such an interesting person, I naturally have to go see her. Nalan Yu's eyes narrowed as she looked into the Imperial Palace. Her lips hooked in a cold smile. I heard that Xiang Fei was once Jing Yu's best friend, but because she fell in love with the 9th emperors, she entered the palace? Huh, how interesting. How can this young lady not go see her? Nalan Yu smiled indifferently as she turned to walk down the street. The coldness in her voice was very obvious. The early spring weather was still a bit cold, but the charcoal fire in the palace was still burning. What's that smell? Inside Xiang Fei's bedroom, Ning Xiangyuan was wearing a high-quality robe and lying on a soft couch. She was reading a book in her hand. Smelling the strange smell of charcoal, she frowned and raised her hand to throw the book on the table. Where did this charcoal come from? Why does it smell like this? Ning Xiangyuan shouted with a cold face. Your Highness, please forgive me. This is the charcoal sent by the Empress. She said that there is not enough charcoal in the palace. If we don't burn it all, we won't be able to use it next year. The person called Lu was Ning Xiangyuan's personal servant. She knelt on the ground with a terrified expression. Empress, it's the Empress again. Ning Xiangyuan stood up angrily and said in a cold voice, now that Imperial concubine Fu has been taken down, there is still an Empress waiting for us. Why are you still kneeling? Hurry up and change the damned charcoal. Get out of here. Ning Xiangyuan fiercely flung her sleeves and walked towards the bed. She sat in front of the dressing table and looked at the dazzling array of jewelry. Looking at the silk and satin, she felt much better. Today, I am living a life of luxury in the palace. I am loved by everyone, but you, Jing Yu, are like a stray dog that is cursed by the world and chased by all the different races. Jing Yu, do you feel sad now? Ning Xiangyuan slowly picked up a hairpin and looked at the dazzling jewels on it. Chapter 612. Ning Xiangyuan suddenly thought back to that day in the restaurant. Jing Yu's arrogant face. Those words made Ning Xiangyuan tighten her grip on the hairpin in her hand. She said something about never serving the same husband. She said something about a lifetime. Now I want to see how you'll live your entire life. So what if you're the 9 emperors? You're an evildoer. You're destined to be killed by everyone. As long as Ning Xiangyuan thought of that scene, she felt a burst of joy in her heart. Her lips curled into a faint smile. She faintly heard the sound of light footsteps behind her. Ning Xiangyuan slightly frowned and coldly said, Lu, this consort didn't let you in. Why aren't you scramming? Consort Xiang Fei sure is arrogant. The footsteps behind her stopped. Following that, a clear and cold female voice sounded out. Ning Xiangyuan was so scared that her entire body trembled. She hurriedly turned her head to look. Under the candlelight behind her, Nalan Yu's red robe was like blood. Behind her was a black shadow. Who are you? Ning Xiangyuan's eyes widened. She was shocked by Nalan Yu's beautiful face. Her heart was a bit nervous as she asked. Don't worry. I'm not here to kill you. Nalan Yu's lips curled up into a faint smile as she walked towards Ning Xiangyuan. She looked Ning Xiangyuan up and down, her eyebrows slightly raised as she said, You do have some good looks, but it's a pity that you're too ordinary. You can't compare to Jing Yu. As Nalan Yu's words fell, Ning Xiangyuan's heart felt suffocated. She stared at the woman in front of her. If it wasn't for the fact that you're still young, do you think the emperor would dote on you so much? When you get older, do you think the emperor will still fall in love with you? Nailin Yu looked at Ning Xiangyuan with incomparable ridicule as she spoke. What do you mean? What are you doing in my palace? Ning Xiangyuan was slightly shocked by Nailin Yu's words. Thinking of the current empress, she thought of herself. Don't get excited. I'm just here to make a deal with you. Nailin Yu calmly found a seat and sat down. She smiled at Ning Xiangyuan and said, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Nailin Yu. You and I have a common enemy, Jing Yu. You? You are Nailin Yu? Ning Xiangyuan looked at Nailin Yu in shock. Her eyes were filled with fear. When Nailin Yu heard Ning Xiangyuan's words, she wasn't too surprised. It had to be known that this imperial concubine Xiang had used imperial concubine Fu to climb up the ranks. Who was imperial concubine Fu? Back when Nailin Yu was by Xiao Chen's side, there was also another person close to Xiao Chen, and that was Fu Ruoqing. How could the two of them not know each other? Fu Ruoqing regarded Ning Xiangyuan as her confidant, so it wasn't impossible for her to reveal some information. Or perhaps, Ning Xiangyuan had found out something herself. Ning Xiangyuan was even able to figure out whether the imperial edict was real or fake. Naturally, she also knew about Nailin Yu's matters. That's right. Nailin Yu smiled as she looked at Ning Xiangyuan and said, Imperial concubine Xiang truly has good skills. Not only were you able to take down Fu Ruoqing and figure out whether the imperial edict was real or fake, you're also very familiar with my matters. It seems like imperial concubine Xiang has spent quite a bit of effort on the 9th emperors, right? Miss Nailin is joking. Ning Xiangyuan's face was slightly stiff, but she still remained silent. She looked at Nailin Yu with vigilance. Today, I'm not here for Fu Ruoqing. I'm only here to make a deal with imperial concubine Xiang. Nailin Yu saw the excitement in Ning Xiangyuan's eyes. She sneered in her heart, but her face didn't change in the slightest as she said, I can help you stay young for 10 years. As long as you can charm the emperor, you can help me. Chapter 613. What? Ning Xiangyuan's heart violently shook as she looked at Nailin Yu in disbelief. Eternal youth for 10 years. This is the medicine. As long as you drop a drop into the bath every month, it will cleanse your body after you take a bath. Nailin Yu slowly took out a bottle of medicine and said, Don't think I'm lying to you. I'm helping you because I want to use you to control the Tokyo's forces so that I can kill Jing Yu. I want her dead. Nailin Yu's eyes were filled with 10 years of ruthlessness. Ning Xiangyuan originally didn't believe Nailin Yu, but after hearing this, her eyes slightly shook and she immediately understood. You are now Xiao Ye's favorite concubine. If you can talk to Xiao Yi next to him, there is no way he won't be moved. As long as the Tokyo doesn't let go, the other 3 countries won't let you go so easily. You should know that although people with different pupils are called monsters, they can also tame beasts. Nailin Yu's heart trembled as she became alert. Unfortunately, Jing Yu grew up in the secular world and doesn't know how to tame beasts. However, if she was taken away by a country or a clan and forced to tame beasts, then that clan would be able to sweep the world. Nailin Yu slightly licked her lips and looked at Ning Xiangyuan as she said, Do you think Xiao Yi won't be moved? Will he let you go? What? Ning Xiangyuan's heart fiercely beat. Not to mention what Xiao Yi would do after hearing this, even she had the desire to sweep the world. Such words were not something that he dared to say easily. How about it? Do you want to make this deal or not? Nailin Yu slightly curled her lips as she looked at Ning Xiangyuan and said, You should know that this is your chance. The position of empress. Don't you want it? Ning Xiangyuan's heart slightly trembled as she became silent. Her brows furrowed as if she was in a difficult struggle. She wasn't an idiot. If she accepted this deal, then not only would Jing Yu have nowhere to run, but it would also ignite the flames of war between the countries. But when she entered the palace, wasn't it all to step on Jing Yu? At that time, Jing Yu would become a monster that everyone wanted to beat. And she was the high and mighty mother of a nation. As long as she thought of that scene, Ning Xiangyuan couldn't help but get excited. Then what do you want? What can you get? Ning Xiangyuan raised her head and looked at Nailin Yu. When Nailin Yu saw Ning Xiangyuan's hesitant appearance, she felt a bit strange. Could it be that this person still had feelings for Jingyu? However, after Ning Xiangyuan asked this question, Nailin Yu knew that this transaction was a success. I want Xiaochun to serve me forever. Nailin Yu's eyes were filled with coldness, and that fiery intent made Ning Xiangyuan feel a strong possessiveness. Ning Xiangyuan's expression changed. She stared at Nailin Yu for a long time before a faint smile appeared on her face. She looked at Nailin Yu and said, "Since our goals are the same, then I wish us a happy cooperation." Ning Xiangyuan raised her head and smiled at Nailin Yu. Haha. This miss knew that concubine Xiangfei was a straightforward person. Nailin Yu happily laughed. She raised her hand and placed the porcelain bottle on the table. She stood up and said, "This is what you want. I believe that concubine Xiangfei will soon become the master of the harem." Ning Xiangyuan's eyes burned as she looked at the small bottle of medicine. When she heard Nailin Yu's words, her lips curled into a proud smile. It seemed that if she wanted to ensure that she wouldn't lose favor, then the first thing she needed to do was to get rid of the Empress. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.